Chapter 13:20. As luck would have it, she did know Country B's president, Pierre. Looking at Ya and Lambada's shocked faces, Yun Jian was extremely calm. You know, Mr. President? Not only was Ya shocked, even Lambada, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian, trembled and asked Yun Jian in a horrified voice. Lambada was the head of a village after all, and Ya was just an ordinary woman from the countryside. Ya's shock was definitely greater than that of village chief Lameda. Looking at their shocked expressions, Yun Jian crossed her arms in front of her chest and stepped on Lambada's back with one foot. "He's just a loser," Yun Jian said without exaggeration. Back then Yun Jian had received a mission to kill the ministers under Country B's president, Pierre. At that time, Pierre had just become the president and needed the support of his ministers to strengthen his position. Yun Jian killed the ministers under Country B's president one after another, which almost drove Pierre to the brink of despair. Pierre was considered a capable person. After searching for a long time he finally found Yun Jian. Then he offered her a lot of money and begged Yun Jian not to kill his men. It was not an exaggeration to say that he knelt and begged her. That was because Country B could not find Yun Jian even if they mobilized all their military forces, let alone kill Yun Jian. Pierre did that because he was at his wits' end. Yun Jian had already completed the mission and planned to stop. However, Pierre had given her so many priceless treasures. How could she not accept them? Who could say no to money? Later on, Yun Jian accidentally heard from others that Country B's president, Pierre, was afraid that she would suffer from sequelae. There was once when someone mentioned the name, slaying God, in front of Pierre. He was so frightened that he rolled off the dining table in a sorry state. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lambada and the rest did not think that Yun Jian was joking at all. After all, everyone had seen Yun Jian's ability earlier. How could an ordinary little girl be so powerful? If it was an ordinary girl, with the actions of Lambada village chief just now, she would have been scared to the point of crying for her parents. Cough cough. The village chief had no choice but to look at Yun Jian again. After staring at Yun Jian for 2 seconds he said to Yun Jian weakly, Do you really know the president? Regardless of whether it was the village chief or Ya, the identity of the president was a figure that they would never see in their entire lives. Therefore, when they found out that Yun Jian knew the president, regardless of whether this matter was true or not, the attitude of the village chief and Ya towards Yun Jian would be greatly reversed. Yun Jian had already lifted her foot from Lambada's back. At this moment she was standing coldly to the side. "But you are just the president of B country. Do I need to talk nonsense?" Chapter 13:21. She was determined to get involved in Lily's affairs. Lily had helped her before, and Yun Jian had always been a vengeful person. Moreover, it was just a small matter to her, but to Lily, it was a major event in her life. Yun Jian lowered her eyes at the thought of this. Ya was still standing in front of Yun Jian. When she saw Yun Jian's lowered eyes, she felt a little afraid. It didn't matter if Yun Jian really knew the president of Country B. If this matter was true, she wouldn't be able to compensate for it even if she had 100 heads. Yun Jian turned around and was about to enter the house, but she paused for a moment before turning to look at Ya. Her red lips curled up slightly, and her smile was a little strange. "I hope I never have the chance to see that scene again. Otherwise, I'll catch that old man Pierre tomorrow and have a good talk with you." After saying this, Yun Jian knew that her words were fatal to village chief Lambada and Ya. In other words, they were all afraid that she would really invite the president of Country B here. Therefore, Lily wouldn't be in danger for the time being. As for her and Ce leaving the village, Yun Jian believed that after she lost contact with Ce's snake, Lizard and Snow Eagle would definitely find the site of the plane crash and find this place very quickly. That was why Yun Jian said that she would stay here for about 2 more days. After Yun Jian entered the house, she closed the door. When village chief Lambada saw this, not only did he not stop her, he even heaved a huge sigh of relief. Then, village chief Lambada led his men and fled without even asking Ya for the money for the betrothal gift. Lily also heaved a huge sigh of relief, and Ya didn't dare to make things difficult for her. After Yun Jian entered the house, she saw Ce sitting at the head of the bed and watching her enter the house. When Yun Jian saw this, she walked over and sat beside Ce. Then, she stared at him for 2 seconds before shifting her gaze to his bare shoulders and back, and the hideous scar. She pursed her red lips and asked softly, "Does it still hurt?" She had already removed the shrapnel that pierced Ce's back when the plane exploded. However, his back was still covered in scars that were hard to look at. Ce had been injured before, but this time, it was purely because he did not want Yun Jian to have any bruises, which was why he was heavily injured in exchange for it. Hearing Yun Jian's slightly hoarse voice, Ce pulled Yun Jian into his embrace with his bare chest. "It doesn't hurt," he said softly to Yun Jian. His voice was so gentle that it didn't sound like Ce's usual style. The way he treated Yun Jian was always different from the others. "Don't be like this in the future. You could have been fine." Yun Jian was about to say something. Ce covered her mouth in time. Yun Jian braced her palms against Ce's bare chest. She was afraid of touching the wound on Ce's back, so she dared not hug him back. Although the wound on Ce's back did not touch the heart or other organs, it hurt the most when it was a superficial wound. If an ordinary person was injured like this, they probably would not even dare to move. The slightest movement would cause unbearable pain. Ce, however, did not care. His favorite Xiao Jian was right in front of him. How could he hold himself back? That would be. Ce kissed Yun Jian's lips. Soon both of them had unknowingly removed their clothes. Ce had even reached out to remove Yun Jian's jeans. Just as he removed Yun Jian's jeans, Ce saw that Yun Jian's panties were stained with blood. Ce's brows furrowed deeply at the sight. Losing all of his emotions, he placed his hand on the blood stain in Yun Jian's panties and was about to pull it off as he muttered, "What are you doing?" Chapter 1322. There was a hint of anger in Ce's words. It was the kind of anger that came from discovering that Yun Jian was injured, but she did not tell him right away. Looking at Yun Jian's underwear, it was covered in blood. Just by looking at it, Ce could tell that the depth of the wound was probably deeper than his. She did not even say anything. Ce reached out to tug at her wound angrily. Yun Jian, who had not realized what was going on just now, suddenly snapped back to reality. Yun Jian had never had a sense of timing when relatives visited. She had been on her period ever since she took over this body. In her previous life, Yun Jian did not have a sense of timing when relatives visited either. Most of the time it came when she was on a mission. Even when her period came, she still had to get into the water. Even if she had to fight a bloody battle, she had to complete her mission. In this regard, Yun Jian had taken good care of herself after her rebirth. In spite of it, Yun Jian had never had a sense of timing when relatives visited. It was always Qin Yiru who helped her prepare the things she needed to change into. This time Yun Jian was completely unprepared. She didn't even realize that her period had come at this time. What was even more awkward was that she did not bring sanitary pads with her. "Don't. It's not an injury." Yun Jian pressed Ce's hand at once. In spite of it, her cheeks were flushed red, making Yun Jian look even more embarrassed. "There's so much blood, It's not an injury?" Ce asked, raising his voice. Ce's brows were tightly knitted as he looked at Yun Jian with worry written all over his face. Ce had always been a man of action. He had pinned Yun Jian down on the bed with one hand and tugged at her underwear with the other. "Xiao Jian, you'll be mine sooner or later. I'll take a look, it's fine. Don't be scared." As Ce spoke, he had already pulled Yun Jian's underwear off. Yun Jian was so shy that she was about to curl into a ball. She quickly explained, "It's a physiological phenomenon. It's not an injury. As long as it's a girl, it'll come." Yun Jian swore that she had never been so embarrassed in her life. Ce did not even know this. Yun Jian, however, could understand. Ce did not believe Yun Jian's words. He even bent down to take a look. He checked Yun Jian from top to bottom. Only then did he believe it. Yun Jian had already sat back on the bed and put her clothes back on. Ce believed her now. He was a little embarrassed, but once he thought about how he had seen his Xiao Jian's, cough cough. After a while, Ce walked out of the house. There were only Yun Jian and Ce in the house. Yun Jian's pants were stained with blood, so she could not go out. Ce's back was injured, but he could still help Yun Jian get what she needed. Ce came out of the house and saw a group of Country B's rural women sitting in the courtyard. Ye was here as well. When Ye saw Ce coming over, she stood up quickly. Ce was with Yun Jian. Yun Jian knew Country B's president, so Ye's attitude toward Yun Jian and Ce had changed completely. She dared not be rude to Ce and Yun Jian anymore. After Ye stood up, Ce walked over without a change in expression on his aloof face. When he reached them, he asked, "Do you guys have sanitary pads?" The women who were enjoying the shade stared at Ce in disbelief when they heard him. This young man looked like a decent person and was ridiculously handsome. Why was his mind so dirty? What? Even Ye was stunned. Ce repeated himself bossily, "I need sanitary pads. I'll give you 2 minutes to hand them over." Damn it, she dared to treat us like this yesterday. Today we'll kill her. Whoever knocks her down will get this woman. Today Lambada had brought a group of villagers over. At this moment he was glaring fiercely at Yun Jian, as if he wanted to get back at Yun Jian for yesterday's anger. Hearing this, Ce's face instantly darkened. At this moment, a huge helicopter flew from afar to a nearby lawn. The sound of the helicopter's wings was deafening. When it was about to land on the ground, the helicopter's door opened. A handsome man with a scary scar on his neck poked his head out. He was carrying a short and fat middle-aged man, and he threw him out of the helicopter. After being thrown out, the man landed on the ground. The surrounding people were a little suspicious. Chapter 13:24. The short, plump middle-aged man who was thrown down from the helicopter by the handsome man with a deep scar on his neck was Country B's president, Pierre. Pierre was Country B's president. Village Chief Lambada had someone above him. When President Pierre traveled in the past, the village chief had caught a glimpse of him from afar. That was how Village Chief Lambada recognized Pierre as their country's president. Country B was small in size but had a large population, which was one of the main reasons for the country's poverty. Country B was also a country. To Village Chief Lambada and the rest, Pierre was perhaps an important figure that they would never see in their lifetime. Therefore, Village Chief Lambada and the rest were taken aback when they saw Pierre out of the blue. Especially when Village Chief Lambada and the rest had denied the fact that Yun Jian knew Pierre. Now they saw a strange man throwing Pierre down from the helicopter. Seeing this, Mayor Lameda and the rest of the villagers could not help wondering if the man with the scar on his neck who had thrown Pierre off the helicopter was in cahoots with Yun Jian. Just as they thought about it, Pierre, who was thrown to the ground, had already gotten up. Village Chief Lambada and the rest were still in a daze. Snow Eagle, who was standing on the helicopter, jumped down handsomely from the helicopter that was at least 5 meters above the ground and landed steadily on the ground. After Snow Eagle jumped down, Snake, Lizard followed suit. You found him. You should let me go now," Pierre asked weakly as he watched Snow Eagle and Snake. Lizard walked past him. He shook his fat body and asked weakly. However, Snow Eagle and Snake. Lizard ignored him. Snow Eagle and Snake. Lizard went to Yun Jian right in front of Village Chief Lambada and the rest. Snow Eagle went to Yun Jian and Ce and greeted them respectively, "Young madam, young master." Snake. Lizard, on the other hand, greeted them directly, "Sister Jian." Village Chief Lambada and the rest knew that Snow Eagle and Snake. Lizard were most likely Yun Jian and Ce's men from the moment Snow Eagle and Snake. Lizard appeared. Therefore he wasn't too surprised at this moment, but he was still sweating in his heart. Especially Lambada Village Chief. One must know that just now Lambada Village Chief had brought all the villagers with hose to look for Yun Jian. That was because Village Chief Lambada had heard from someone. That person said that if a nobody like Yun Jian knew President Pierre, how could she appear in such a small place? That person said that Yun Jian was most likely bluffing. Therefore Lumamata rushed over with his men. He tried to cause trouble for Yun Jian. Yesterday Yun Jian had interrupted him, and her words were not so pleasant. The village chief had always remembered this in his heart. However, the moment he saw Pierre, he felt as if he had accidentally offended someone he shouldn't have. Therefore Lambada swallowed hard and didn't dare to say anything else. Seeing the two people who had forcibly kidnapped him call out to Yun Jian and Si respectfully, Pierre wasn't stupid. He immediately reacted. Yun Jian and Si were most likely their bosses. Pierre stuck out his belly. After all, he was the president of Country B, so naturally he couldn't show any fear. Therefore Pierre ordered Yun Jian and Si, "You? Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? I order you to quickly release me. Otherwise this is my country. When my soldiers chase you here they will definitely..." Before Pierre could finish, Yun Jian, who stood opposite him, snorted and said, "You're not the only one. Pierre, looks like you still haven't learned your lesson from 4 years ago. Do you need me to kill all your ministers before you know your place?" Yun Jian had also just debuted not long ago. Her mission was to assassinate Pierre's ministers. At that time, Pierre was so scared that he couldn't eat. Pierre hadn't heard a young girl's tone in a long time that could reach such a level. This young girl's tone. Why was it so similar to the woman in his memory who had killed countless of his ministers, and finally gave away half of the country's gold and silver treasures? Chapter 1326. There were only 4 people in the helicopter: Shuang, Snake, Lizard, Yun Jian and Si. Qingyu did not come. She was still at the tea party in Country B, planning to accompany Doya and Charlotte to send Maina's body back to Country M for burial before bringing the 2 girls back to the Kosha mercenaries. After all, the Kosha mercenaries were hidden. If Qingyu did not stay to lead the way, Doya and Charlotte would not even know where the Kosha mercenaries were. Moreover, Doya and Charlotte did not possess astounding hacking skills like Yun Jian. If they were to hack and search for the Kosha mercenaries' specific location, they would need to possess skills as strong as Yun Jian's to locate the Kosha mercenaries. However, they did not. They did not even know what a hacker was. Because of what happened before, the time to return to China was delayed. When Yun Jian and Si returned to the country, it was already the 3rd of August. After sending Yun Jian back to Longmen City, Si returned to Anhun with Shuang. Yun Jian was about to start school. Si had planned to go to Min City with Yun Jian. Yun Jian was about to undergo a month of military training while Si would go straight to Senior 3 when he enrolled, so he did not have to go through military training. He wanted to see Yun Jian all the time. In spite of it, Si had to return to Anhun personally to investigate who was the one who wanted him and Xiao Jian dead this time. Was it the mysterious person from Yulong mainland? Or was it someone else? This was a matter of life and death. He could not afford to be careless. Moreover, he was certain that there was a traitor in Anhun. Before he found Anhun's traitor, Si would not give up. Hence, Si could not say when he would return. Before they left, Si hugged Yun Jian and told her, "Xiao Jian, I'll definitely bring our overseas marriage certificate back the next time I come back." At that time, it would be reasonable for him to want to do something to her. Of course, when he was looking for the traitor of Anhun, he could also sneak into the military training area to look for Yun Jian. If Adam was standing here right now, he would probably clap his hands and shout that if his young master could resist sneaking off to Yun Jian's military training grounds to look for her for a month, he would eat shit in front of Shuang and the other 2. If Adam was here and Ce heard his inner monologue, Ce would probably slap *T on Adam's head. After Ce left, Yun Jian prepared to officially report to the Min City Military Academy. "Xiao Jian, you have to take good care of your body when you go to school. You have to adjust your nutrition. Vegetarian and meat dishes have to be balanced. Don't be picky and eat everything. Girls your age, don't learn from others and try to lose weight. Let me tell you, Xiao Jian isn't fat. Don't lose weight like other girls." Chapter 1327. Qing Yiru was very naggy now, but she was not to be blamed. Anyone who saw their children about to leave them and enter high school, which also meant that their daughter was about to leave them and go to another city, would become like this. To Qing Yiru, no matter how extraordinary Yun Jian's performance was previously, she was just her daughter in Qing Yiru's heart. She was just an ordinary girl. Yun Jian did not want to listen to Qing Yiru's nagging, but she felt warmth in her heart. Being able to enjoy a mother's love was a luxury to her in her previous life. It was because she no longer had a mother. Yun Jian felt that her rebirth was not in vain now that she was reborn and had a wonderful mother like Qing Yiru. She was even glad that she could be reborn because of the sandalwood box. Coming. I've brought the change." Qing Yiru was afraid that Yun Jian would not wait for her and leave first, so she hurried down the stairs and stuffed a handful of change into Yun Jian's hand. Xiao Jian, take this. You have to come home often when you're free in the military academy. Qin Yuru said as she helped Yun Jian lift the bulky suitcase and headed out. Yun Jian carried a small, black, flashy backpack on one shoulder. There were no books in it, only a black pen, a butterfly knife, a bunch of razor blades and 2 daggers. This butterfly knife was not the one made from the god-slaying blade. Yun Jian had hidden the butterfly saber made from deicide blade with her. Unless she took it out herself, no one would be able to retrieve it from her. Moreover, Yun Jian usually carried 2 butterfly knives with her now. One was made from Godslayer blade while the other was just a regular open-edged butterfly knife bought from a vendor. Yun Jian hid the butterfly knife made from Godslayer blade on her at all times and would not dirty it when she did not need it. As for the other regular butterfly knife, Yun Jian would throw it away and change it at any time if she dirted it. Carrying the small backpack on one shoulder, no one would have imagined that Yun Jian was such a sweet-looking girl with a hint of beauty and a delicate face that would mesmerize any man who saw her. What was hidden in the backpack were not books but a bunch of knives of all kinds. Seeing Qin Yuru snatching her bulky suitcase, Yun Jian quickly went over to take it back and told Qin Yuru, "Mom, I'll take it myself." As she spoke, Yun Jian did not let Qin Yuru take the suitcase from her. "Hey child, Mom isn't old yet," Qin Yuru called out in relief. Qin Yuru sent Yun Jian to the bus station personally and watched the bus leave slowly. After an hour or 2 of journey, Yun Jian finally arrived at Min City from Longmen City. Yun Jian pulled her suitcase to the entrance of Min City's military academy after getting off the bus. This was not her first time coming to Min City's military academy. However, due to Yun Jian's antics last time, her Year 1 and Year 2 classmates had already been promoted to Year 2 and Year 3. Year 3 students had already graduated. Moreover, this was the military training period, which meant that Yun Jian would not see any familiar faces. Chuning and the other 5 were still on summer break. Only the new Year 1 students would rush to school to participate in the month-long military training. Even the instructors who were fighting to have Yun Jian join their team would not appear during this month. As the school attached great importance to this military training, they had sent national senior instructors to train the new batch of students. Yun Jian's lips curled up at the thought. She was looking forward to the senior instructors' training. Her new life would begin here as well. Chapter 1328. The school was still the same as the last time Yun Jian came. The ground was very clean, but because a month of summer vacation had passed, there were a lot of fallen leaves on the ground. This also fully proved that the school was very environmentally friendly and green. There were fallen leaves, which meant that there were trees. A school with trees, the students who lived here breathed in the freshest air. Yun Jian stepped on the hot summer day, not afraid of being exposed to the sun. She strolled from the school gate to the school's report board. Generally, when new students entered the school, they would look for their name on the report board and see which class they were in. Yun Jian quickly found her name on the report board. At the top of her name was a big word, Grade 1 Class 2. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She gently slung her black shoulder bag over her shoulder. When she turned to leave, a girl suddenly rushed up from behind. The girl rushed up and because Yun Jian turned around she lost her balance. However, the girl still forcibly bumped into Yun Jian with the mentality that as long as she didn't get hurt, it didn't matter what others did. Or maybe it was because she was unhappy with Yun Jian standing there and wanted to fiercely push Yun Jian away. She moved closer to the report board and bumped into Yun Jian with her shoulder. If it was an ordinary person they would probably have been hit. Yun Jian just narrowed her eyes. She didn't even turn her body. She just moved her feet slightly to the side and moved her body away from the girl's momentum. The girl didn't stop for a moment and actually bumped into a boy who was standing in front of her. He was at least 200 pounds and reeked of sweat. This boy's body reeked of sweat. The smell was so strong that the girl who tried to push Yun Jian almost vomited her breakfast. The surrounding people were all young boys and girls who were in puberty. When they saw the girl pounce on a boy, they all shouted, "Oh!" The girl quickly pushed away the boy who reeked of sweat. Then she quickly reacted and pointed at Yun Jian and scolded her, "Why did you dodge just now? If you didn't dodge, I wouldn't have bumped into him. And I wouldn't have made a fool of myself. If I don't dodge, am I supposed to let you hit me?" Yun Jian sneered. She ignored the girl and walked straight to Class 1-2, with her shoulder bag. No matter how the girls shouted behind him, he ignored them all. After Yun Jian entered the classroom, she casually found a seat and sat down. She was surrounded by new classmates. Yun Jian did not know them and they did not know Yun Jian either. Even the teachers and students sitting on the podium did not recognize any of them. After Yun Jian placed her shoulder bag on the seat and sat down, the girl sitting beside Yun Jian suddenly expressed her goodwill. "Hello, my name is Lin Wan. What's your name?" Seeing that someone was trying to please her, Yun Jian replied indifferently, "Yun Jian." She had always been a cold person. The girl named Lin Wan did not take offense. Instead, she smiled at Yun Jian and asked, "Yun Jian, your name is very nice. Can we be friends?" Since they were unfamiliar with this place, most girls were used to looking for friends first. Yun Jian nodded slightly. This Lin Wan was very interesting. As she spoke, she always liked to say things that could make people laugh. Soon the girls sitting around Yun Jian were all amused by Lin Wan and laughed. Even Yun Jian could not help but smile. After talking for almost 10 minutes, Yun Jian suddenly saw a person walk in through the door. This person was the girl who scolded Yun Jian on the report board. Yun Jian lowered her eyes. Such a coincidence? Just as she was thinking this, Lin Wan had already pulled Yun Jian's hand and said, "Yun Jian, can you accompany me to the restroom?" Yun Jian agreed. Lin Wan gave her a good first impression. When the two came back from the restroom, Yun Jian suddenly saw that her small black backpack had been thrown on the ground. All kinds of knives in the backpack were exposed in front of the surrounding students. The girl who scolded Yun Jian on the report board was now stepping on Yun Jian's small backpack. Seeing that Yun Jian had come back, the girl laughed a few times and mocked. Diske, this student's backpack doesn't even have a single book. Hey, it's full of knives. We're a military school, but what are you trying to show by having knives in your backpack? Are you trying to show that you're special? Or do you want others to think that you're different from us? Chapter 13:29. This girl was very arrogant. At this moment, the homeroom teacher sitting on the podium went out. It was probably because the homeroom teacher went out that the female lead was so arrogant. Moreover, the girl could not forget how she had bumped into a fat, sweaty boy when Yun Jian dodged like that when she was in the report column. She was a clean freak. And most importantly, the scene just now was seen by many students. These students all shouted and kicked up a fuss. The girl couldn't tolerate this the most, so when she saw that Yun Jian was in the same class as her, she wanted to take revenge. The students in the class didn't know each other, so they were all strangers. So when they saw the girl attacking Yun Jian, they were all a little confused. But it was undeniable that the girl opened Yun Jian's small bag. When the students saw that Yun Jian's small bag was filled with all kinds of knives, they were all instantly stunned. Yun Jian saw the girl stepping on her bag. Before she could say anything, Lin Wan, who was standing beside Yun Jian, grabbed Yun Jian and walked up angrily. Lin Wan looked at the girl angrily. She gritted her teeth and said, "Classmate, what do you mean by this?" Lin Wan was not only a girl who liked to joke, but she was also very righteous. It did not matter what the girl had come to Yun Jian for. But at this moment, it was obvious that this girl was looking for trouble with Yun Jian. Yun Jian lowered her eyes. She simply stood aside and didn't say anything. However, the scene of Lin Wan standing up for her made Yun Jian's eyelids twitch slightly. "Who do you think you are? This matter has nothing to do with you. If you know what's good for you, then scram." The girl saw that Yun Jian's expression didn't change at all. She was angry, but when she saw Lin Wan standing up for Yun Jian, she shouted back. "Classmate, are you crazy? You're scolding people as soon as you open your mouth. Besides, you bullied my friend. How is it none of my business?" Lin Wan sneered at the girl. She walked over and pushed the girl away. Then she picked up Yun Jian's small school bag from the girl's feet. The girl was pushed by Lin Wan. Before she could react, she staggered back 2 steps and steadied herself. Then she pointed at Lin Wan and shouted, "How dare you treat me like this? Do you know who I am? Let me tell you, my father is..." This girl obviously didn't have much ability. After being pushed by Lin Wan, she didn't dare to fight back. Lin Wan's pushing strength was not something an ordinary girl should have. The eyes of the surrounding boys lit up. Even Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. "The teacher is here. The teacher is here." At this moment, someone suddenly shouted a few times. Then a group of people rushed back to their seats. The girl who caused trouble just now was called Lin Shuya. Lin Shuya originally had some ability. However, after facing Lin Wan, she was frightened by the strength of Lin Wan's push. Now that she heard that the teacher was here, Lin Shuya also quickly sat back down. However, before she left, she turned her head and glared fiercely at Yun Jian. It was as if she was saying, "This is not over." After Lin Wan helped Yun Jian pick up the small school bag, she hid all the knives scattered on the ground back into the small school bag. Then she pulled Yun Jian's hand and went to the toilet. "Yun Jian, I'll help you wash the outside of the school bag. It was quite dirty from being stepped on just now," Lin Wan said very kindly. "And Yun Jian didn't refuse. Just now Yun Jian didn't make a move and didn't show her strength. This made the students in the class think that Yun Jian was really just a weak girl. Look, she was bullied like this and didn't even dare to fight back. In the end, she even asked her friend to stand up for her. They didn't know that it wasn't that Yun Jian didn't dare to fight back. It was just that she had just arrived in a new environment and didn't want to become the center of attention. Chapter 1330. This black backpack was bought by Qin Yuru for Yun Jian some time ago, so Yun Jian naturally couldn't throw it away. At the entrance of the girls' washroom, Lin Wan was helping Yun Jian clean her backpack very carefully and seriously. Yun Jian, your backpack is so beautiful, hey? Lin Wan rushed to help Yun Jian clean her backpack. Thank you. Yun Jian thanked Lin Wan politely when she saw how serious the latter was in helping her clean her bag. It was not supposed to be her job anyway. Don't be so polite. We'll be good friends from now on. Lin Wan turned her head and gave Yun Jian a big smile, then she wiped the last stain on the black backpack. Here, take it. Lin Wan said and returned the backpack to Yun Jian. Then Lin Wan and Yun Jian returned to the classroom together. When they returned to the classroom and sat down, the homeroom teacher was already standing on the podium. Seeing that all the students were in place, the homeroom teacher cleared his throat and introduced himself. Hello everyone, my surname is Chu. I believe you can tell my gender. As for you, you can call me Teacher Chu. You've just entered high school and I believe that most of you here are coming to military school for the first time. Our high school is different from ordinary schools. Our military school focuses on physical strength and practice. Moreover, there are more boys in the class. I've counted the girls and there are more girls in our class than other classes. There are a total of 6 girls. Of course, this means that the boys in our class have to be good protectors. Don't let the girls in our class get bullied. Teacher Chu was a male teacher, but his words were quite humorous and witty. Standing on the podium, Mr. Chu walked back and forth talking as he walked. After a while, all the students in the class laughed heartily. Even Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Sure enough, military school was the most suitable place for her. Normal schools, be it junior high school, or university, were all focused on learning. Physical education classes were pitifully few in a week. The military academy was the exact opposite. Physical training was the most important. After explaining the basic precautions, Chu Laosher continued to say, let's go to the cafeteria and have lunch. We'll gather in the classroom at 12:30. We'll prepare to leave for military training. Remember to bring your suitcases. The location of our military training is not in the school. As for the dormitory in the school, we will arrange it after the 1-month military training ends. After Mr. Chu arranged everything, he told everyone to disperse. There was only one large canteen in the military academy, but the canteen had all kinds of dishes, and they were quite sumptuous. As soon as Yun Jian and Lin Wan arrived, Lin Wan exclaimed loudly, "Wow!" However, before Lin Wan could pull Yun Jian to line up in front of the canteen window, they were blocked by Lin Shuya and the group of girls she brought. If they were not mistaken, the group of girls behind Lin Shuya were the ones in the class other than Yun Jian and Lin Wan. She actually managed to rope in the other girls in the class so quickly? Lin Shuya pointed a finger at Yun Jian and yelled at her, "What the hell? Let me tell you, your previous behavior has already made me very angry. If you know what's good for you, quickly kneel down and apologize to me. Then I can still forgive you. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you now." Lin Shuya took the lead to stir up trouble, which made the freshmen of the other classes who passed by stop and take a second look. After all, it was not common to take the lead to stir up trouble like this. Today they encountered a good show as soon as school started, so they had to stop and take a look. Lin Shuya put her hands on her hips and looked at Yun Jian arrogantly. The surrounding students also sized up Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian's pupils contracted fiercely, and she suddenly walked towards a certain part of the canteen. Lin Wan was just about to stand up for Yun Jian when she saw that Yun Jian had already walked towards a certain part of the canteen. Seeing this, Lin Wan hurriedly called out, Hey Yun Jian, where are you going?" Yun Jian ignored her and walked straight to a certain corner of the canteen. Then she came to a girl about 16 or 17 years old and reached out to grab a seemingly ordinary white stone that was strung up by a red string around the girl's neck. Yun Jian's eyes darkened, and then she turned to look at the girl. The sharp refraction in her eyes made the girl with the white stone suddenly tremble. Chapter 1331. Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya. Instead, she walked up to a female classmate from another class that she didn't know at all. She reached out and picked out the white stone hanging around the female classmate's neck, and then asked again, When Lin Shuya saw this, she thought that Yun Jian deliberately wanted to make a fool of herself in front of everyone. She thought that Yun Jian was deliberately ignoring her, or that she wanted to attract attention in the cafeteria. Some girls in puberty especially like to show a different side of themselves from other girls, so they attracted the attention of boys. Lin Shuya immediately thought that this was Yun Jian's purpose, so she stood in place and smiled coldly at Yun Jian in front of all the boys and girls in the cafeteria, deliberately mystifying. What are you pretending for? Just now in the classroom I purposely dropped your bag. What's the matter? Now you want to pretend to be very powerful? Lin Shuya's words made the surrounding students pick up their gazes and look at Yun Jian again. However, they saw that Yun Jian was not affected at all. Her deep and beautiful eyes stared at the girl sitting at the cafeteria table eating. The girl was frightened by Yun Jian's stare. She quickly reached out to pull the red string in Yun Jian's hand. The white stone was tied to the red string. The red string was hung around the girl's neck. The girl wanted to pull the red string back, but she pulled it twice, but the red string did not move. Yun Jian had no intention of returning the white stone to the girl. On the contrary, Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya, who was standing behind her and insulting her loudly. She looked at the white stone fiercely, and then repeated in a loud voice, "Stone, where did you get it?" It was not a question but an absolute questioning tone. Yun Jian had never shown such an expression in front of outsiders. But after seeing this white stone today, she slightly lost control. The reason was simple. This was just an ordinary stone, but the front of the stone was engraved with a letter that was so blurry that if one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't even be able to see what it was. On the back of the white stone, there were two blurry letters, SS. SS naturally referred to slaying God, who was also Yun Jian herself. As for the word Moi, Yun Jian didn't know what it meant in Chinese, but Yun Jian knew that it represented the little girl Yun Jian knew in Han when she was young. The little girl who hugged her every night in the cruel assassin organization, comforting her not to be afraid and telling her, "We have to be fine, we will definitely be able to go home." But in the end, the little girl did not return home. Instead, for the sake of Yun Jian, the other girls in the organization worked together to cut off all her limbs and dig out her heart before she died. In the end, her corpse was fed to the wolves. The person who should have died was Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't know the little girl's name. She only knew that the little girl was My and she was SS. This white stone might be nothing to others. When they were in the assassin organization, Yun Jian and the little girl used a sharp stone to carve the stone stroke by stroke. The little girl said that with it, they would be able to find their way home one day. But in the end, the little girl died and the stone disappeared. But she never forgot the promise she made to the little girl. It was not that Yun Jian had never looked for this white stone, but she couldn't find its whereabouts no matter how hard she searched. She didn't expect to see it here. Chapter 1332. Why do you have the same reaction as the girl I met just now when she saw this stone? Just as Yun Jian stared at the white stone for a long time without moving her eyes away, the girl holding the white stone suddenly spoke. Originally, it was already very surprising to see this white stone here today. In this world, not everyone had the chance to be reborn. Yun Jian was an accident. Xiao Yunju was a miracle. But not everyone had such a fortuitous encounter. Everyone only had one life. If they missed it, they wouldn't have a second chance. Suddenly hearing what the current owner of the white rock, the girl in front of her, said, Yun Jian looked up at the girl abruptly. With a cold expression, she reached out to grab the girl's wrist and questioned, "What are you talking about? What did you say? It hurts? It hurts? Let go first. It hurts." The girl's wrist was suddenly grabbed by Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't control her strength at this time, so the girl was almost in tears when Yun Jian grabbed her wrist. A few girls sitting next to the girl also shouted at Yun Jian, "Student, what are you doing? Can't you see that my classmate is in so much pain that she's about to cry? Let go first." Hearing this, Yun Jian let go first. The girl heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that she was indeed hurt by Yun Jian's grab. "Sorry," Yun Jian said softly. Before the girl could react, she immediately asked, "Where is the girl you said had the same reaction as me?" The girl's unintentional words made Yun Jian's eyelids suddenly twitch. Originally, Yun Jian just wanted to ask the girl where the stone came from. But the girl's words directly made Yun Jian crazy. Yun Jian suddenly had a premonition. "It's from our school's shooting range. Just now when we went to the school we saw her standing there alone shooting targets. Oh yes, her shooting skills are very accurate." Yun Jian couldn't listen to the girl's words anymore. Yun Jian turned around and ran towards the entrance of the cafeteria. Just as she ran in front of Lin Wan, Yun Jian stopped for a moment. Then she asked Lin Wan, Do you know where the shooting range is? I know, but Yunjian, why are you going to the shooting range? Take me there. Yunjian raised her voice. Seeing this, Lin Wan ran to the shooting range with Yunjian. Lin Shuya and the group who were standing in place were stunned. In the end, Lin Shuya laughed coldly. Then Lin Shuya took the lead to break the atmosphere. Hee, she's pretending. Even the actors in dramas can't be compared to her, right? Let's go, let's see what kind of trick she's up her sleeve. With Lin Shuya's organization, the people present were really a little surprised about what Yunjian was going to do. Therefore, the group of people noisily chased in the direction Yunjian went. Among the people who went, Yunjian wasn't the only one from grade 1 too. Now there were only new grade 1 students in the school. Grade 2 and grade 3 were still on summer vacation. At this moment, most of the grade 1 students who were eating in the cafeteria followed Lin Shuya to join in the fun. Lin Shuya organized all the grade 1 students to follow Yunjian to the shooting range. Her main purpose was to see Yunjian make a fool of herself in public. At this moment, Lin Shuya couldn't help but think in her heart, hey, this time Yunjian wants to make a fool of herself. It has nothing to do with me. When Lin Shuya brought a group of people to the empty shooting range, she saw that Yunjian had already walked towards the only girl standing in front of the shooting range. The girl's back gave Yunjian a sense of familiarity. At this moment, Yunjian already had a big smile on her face. This girl's back overlapped with the little girl who had been protecting her in the organization. Thinking of this, Yunjian suddenly pulled out 2 daggers from her waist in front of everyone. Then, she clasped the 2 daggers in each of her palms and silently rushed towards the girl's back in front of everyone. Seeing this, the group of students who were standing far away widened their eyes in surprise. Some of them even shouted, "What?" Chapter 1333. At this moment, even Lin Shuya, who had been trying to guess what Yunjian was thinking, was stunned. After being stunned, Lin Shuya revealed a sneer on her face. She even stretched out her hand and waved at the crowd. I think she just wants to be in the limelight, humph. The two of them must have agreed in advance. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. Lin Shuya suddenly thought of such an explanation, so she said it out loud. In the end, even Lin Shuya believed that Yunjian's dash toward the only girl standing in front of the shooting target must be what was going on. This matter was most likely something that Yunjian and the girl standing in front of the shooting target had agreed in advance. Their purpose was to be in the limelight in front of the whole school. Then, they deliberately mystified themselves and made it seem like they weren't creatures from this earth. They're really crazy. Do they think we can't see it? They directed and acted out a good show themselves. Do they really think we're all fools? As soon as the last word, fell, Lin Shuya turned her head to look at the large group of students standing behind her who had followed her to watch the show. However, she saw that the large group of students who had followed her to watch the show suddenly widened their eyes. Lin Shuya was shocked. She also turned her head and saw a shocking scene. Originally, Lin Shuya, as well as all the students present, thought that Yunjian was just taking out the knife for show. After all, they were in school now. No one would dare to kill someone so boldly, right? Moreover, after listening to Lin Shuya's words, The surrounding group of students thought that Yun Jian was taking out the knife for show. Therefore, the students were misled by Lin Xuya's words, thinking that Yun Jian was really just a scheming girl who wanted to be in the limelight in front of the whole school. However, right at that moment the crowd turned their heads to look and they just happened to see such a scene. They saw Yun Jian holding 2 daggers in each hand. Her figure was like lightning rushing toward the girl. Her feet stepped on the ground but there was no sound at all. The blade of the dagger in her hand was facing the ground as she gripped it with the back of her hand. In just a few moments, Yun Jian was already sprinting towards the girl at a speed that was too fast for the naked eye to follow. Within 5 breaths, she was already behind the girl. At this moment, the girl showed no signs of turning around. Seeing this scene, the people standing in the distance held their breaths. Oh my God, is she trying to kill someone in our school? How dare she kill someone in the military academy? She's crazy. Hurry up and call the teacher over. Someone is going to die. Some people in the crowd had already realized that something was wrong, so they began to shout loudly. However, it was too late. Yun Jian dashed in front of the girl in a few blinks. She held the 2 daggers and stabbed the girl's back. Oh my God! Some of the people watching from afar had already covered their faces. However, in the military academy there were more boys and only a few girls. Therefore, the boys present did not cover their eyes, but they all looked over in horror. The dagger in Yun Jian's hand was less than 3 centimeters away from the girl's back. Ah! The girl in the distance was already screaming and trembling. It was also at this moment that the girl standing in front of the shooting target suddenly placed the sniper rifle without gunpowder behind her back. The sniper rifle that the girl was using for training stopped Yun Jian's daggers at a distance of 3 centimeters. Seeing this familiar technique, Yun Jian's lips curled up slightly. She suddenly turned sideways and threw her body forward. Then she did a light somersault in the air and kicked the girl's abdomen who had already turned around. The girl was stepped on by Yun Jian. She took 3 steps back but stood firmly on the spot. Then the girl saw Yun Jian clearly. There was a trace of tears at the corner of her eyes. When she saw Yun Jian clearly, the girl paused for a few seconds and held back her tears. She said, "I knew that with your strength, you would definitely survive and fulfill your promise to me. I'm very glad that you're still alive." Yun Jian also smiled. There was a trace of moisture at the corner of her eyes, but it did not fall. Chapter 1334. What live? What do you mean by fulfilling your promise to me? Aren't the 2 of them still alive and standing right in front of me? Moreover, how did the 2 of them get their shocking skills from just now? Lin Wan, Lin Xuya, and all the other students who were standing in the distance were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What was going on? Lin Xuya didn't know anything else, but Lin Xuya knew that she was indeed stunned when she heard the nonsensical conversation between Yun Jian and that girl. When Lin Xuya recovered from her shock, she was even more disgusted with Yun Jian. Seeing that all the students standing around her were sizing up Yun Jian and that girl, Lin Xuya was very unhappy. So Lin Xuya began to clamor again. "Everyone, don't be fooled by the 2 of them. They must have agreed beforehand and then deliberately said some strange words and did some strange actions for us to see. I don't know what they're up to." Lin Xuya's words successfully made the group of girls around her shout like the wind. The girls thought that Yun Jian and that girl were deliberately showing off, which made the group of girls around them extremely envious. So after being provoked by Lin Xuya, Yun Jian and that girl who looked enchanting and slightly charming quickly became the public enemy of all the girls present. However, Yun Jian and the girl standing in the distance didn't care at all. "Let's go to the dormitory building. There's no one there." The girl standing in front of Yun Jian put the sniper rifle back on the long table in the shooting range, and then led Yun Jian to a place. There were too many people here and some things weren't good to talk about. Yun Jian nodded slightly, and then she turned her head to look at Lin Wan who was standing not far from her. You go to the cafeteria first. Okay. Lin Wan nodded after she reacted. After Yun Jian finished speaking, she didn't even look at Lin Shuya and the others in the distance. She and the girl walked away in front of everyone just like that. Hey you. Lin Shuya wanted to take everyone to chase after them, but she was stopped by Lin Wan. Student, what are you trying to do? My friends have something to say. Do you want to invade their privacy by following them? My grandfather is a lawyer. Do you believe that I will sue you? Lin Wan stopped Lin Shuya and the others, helping Yun Jian and the girls gain some personal time. Originally, Lin Shuya wanted to chase after them, but when she heard Lin Wan say that her grandfather was a lawyer, Lin Shuya was a little scared. She stood where she was and stomped her feet but didn't chase after them. In front of the dormitory. Today they came to school because the military training for the freshmen had begun. The location of the military training was not within the school, so the students did not stay in the dormitory. Therefore no one walked around the dormitory building. It was so quiet that even the sound of cicadas could be heard clearly. Yun Jian and the girl stood facing each other. I thought I'd never see you again, the girl broke the silence and said. Me too. Yun Jian's voice was slightly hoarse, but from her expression, there was no change in the slightest. Even though Yun Jian's heart was fluctuating, no emotional changes could be seen on her face. Actually, I didn't die at that time, so I could be considered dead. The girl spoke at this time. As she spoke, she grinned at Yun Jian casually. I think we should get to know each other again first. My name is Mu Ying. Back in the organization, my was just an abbreviation of my name. Chapter 1335. Mu Ying smiled then stopped smiling. She looked at Yun Jian from head to toe before continuing. You're very strong. I'm afraid I can't last more than 3 moves against you now. You're the only one who completed all the missions of an Hun organization and escaped from their control. You didn't disappoint me. Mu Ying was only 9 years old when she died. She only stayed in an Hun organization for a few years. Even so, anyone who grew up in such an environment would not be simple. Tell me about yourself. Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at Mu Ying with narrowed eyes. Only then did Mu Ying smile. She put away her smile and said in a serious tone, at that time growing up in such a family, but fortunately before my body was thrown to the wolves, my brain was extracted by a perverted doctor who didn't ask about her current identity. Maybe you'll understand better if I explain it this way. Faintly at Mu Ying. That means I'm still me now. Let's put aside everything from the past and get to know each other again. My own. As she spoke, my body has already been extended her hand again and placed it in front of Mu Ying, now belongs to a little girl. Back Yun Jian from that perverted doctor transplanted my brain into the body of that little girl who had already died, Mu Ying was touched by Yun Jian's words. Life was unpredictable. He saved me so that I could pretend to be a little girl and accompany the little girl's family. Being able to leave at home was already a luxury for them back then. That crazy doctor is the only scientist in the world who can transfer a person's consciousness into another person's body. I'm also his first successful freshman from class 9. But unfortunately, he passed away 2 years after I took over this body. Chapter 13. Now that I have a new family as a little girl, explaining things to Mu Ying, Yun Jian and Mu Ying went to the cafeteria to get story in a few sentences. The things that happened in an Hun organization did exist, but there was actually someone in the world who could transfer a person's consciousness to another dead person. She would try her best turning that person into another person. Because the current Mu Ying had her own happy family, then this wasn't so unbelievable anymore. Yun Jian's life trajectories were no longer the same. However, went to the cafeteria with Yun Jian for lunch. I didn't give up on training. Middle school and high school meals were different. When I was in high school, I immediately applied for the Min-City Military Academy, while high school meals were free to order by swiping cards. Mu Ying told Yun Jian what had happened to her, the homeroom teachers had already distributed meal cards to each student when they first arrived in the classroom. The less she knew about Yun Jian's background, the safer she would be. Parted ways with Mu Ying had been in a Hun for some time, so she understood this. Over here. Moreover, before they reached class 1 to participate in the world of assassins and secret agents not far from her previous. The homeroom teacher, Mr. Chu, was leading the class non-stop. All the students had already gathered at the door with their respective suitcases in previous life. Yun Jian smiled at Lin Wan and walked into the classroom. On the other hand, it was because Mu Ying's slung her black backpack over her shoulder and dragged her suitcase out of the classroom. Even relatives, she stood at the door and gathered with the other students. It could be said that Mu Ying's current identity was the little princess. When he saw that most of the students who went to the cafeteria for lunch had returned, he opened his mouth and said, "The school bus that will take you to the field training camp will be here in a while. I will briefly explain the rules of your military training. This year's freshman's military training is the strictest in history. Moreover, this year's freshmen's military training will be in the field training camp. Basically, it will be actual combat. There will be specialized instructors to explain the specific matters to you when you get there. Later, you will all be assigned to your respective tents. Regardless of wind or rain, you will be living in tents for the next month. To put it bluntly, it was to train the students' survival skills in the field. As soon as Mr. Chu finished speaking, the surrounding students cried out in pain. Oh my God! Military training in the wild. Are they trying to tire us to death? Lin Wan began to shout after hearing the news. After screaming twice, Lin Wan turned to look at Yun Jian. Seeing that she was not afraid at all, Lin Wan asked Yun Jian in shock. Yun Jian, aren't you afraid? I heard that it's possible to encounter poisonous snakes and beasts during military training in the field. Should I be afraid? Yun Jian turned to look at Lin Wan and said softly. Some people really think that they are invincible just because they were in the limelight in front of everyone. Diske, don't get scared to wake up in the middle of the night and cry, Mommy, I want to go home. When Lin Shuya, who was standing not far away, heard this, she quickly spoke to Yun Jian in a mocking tone. Lin Shuya did not believe the strength that Yun Jian displayed in front of everyone just now. Not to mention Lin Shuya, when the people present saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying's actions, it was likely that no one present believed that Yun Jian and Mu Ying's true strength just now. After all, this was the first time that the new batch of high school freshmen came into contact with the military academy. Before this, everyone came from ordinary high schools and no one deliberately trained their skills. In that kind of field training camp, it's normal for girls to be afraid. Haha, at most, I'll lend you my shoulder to lean on. Chapter 1337. Su Haoqing you? You still want to take advantage of the girls in our class? Move aside. As soon as the boisterous boy finished speaking, a lean, good-looking boy immediately walked over and pushed away the boisterous boy named Su Haoqing. Damn, you're asking for a beating, aren't you? The boy named Su Haoqing quickly started fighting with the lean, good-looking boy. Although the students in the class didn't know each other before today, they were all able to play and laugh together very quickly. Just like Lin Wan, although it was her first day meeting Yun Jian, she was also very used to talking to Yun Jian. Are you guys listening to me or not? Seeing that the people around her were all talking
Yun
and
Jian didn't
completely
react,
ignoring
but
her,
that didn't mean
Lin
that the
Shuya was so
surrounding
angry
people
that she
didn't
lifted her foot and
According
stopped.
to Lin Shuya,
But in
her
the
cousin
end,
actually
Lin
knew
Shuya's voice
Taekwondo,
still
Sanda,
softened.
and Judo.
After a while,
He could be considered to
Lin Shuya
have
suddenly
everything.
curled her lips.
Wow.
She seemed
The
to have
surrounding
thought of
students
something, and so
exclaimed
she
loudly.
smiled very proudly.
Even some of the boys
exclaimed,
when you were
"That's
eating in the
awesome."
cafeteria just
Yun
now,
Jian
didn't
only
you tell us
raised
that
her
your
eyelids
cousin is a
slightly,
senior in the
not
second
taking
year?
it seriously
This
at all.
time we're going to the
The
field
school
training
bus is
camp
here,
for
the
the
school
military
bus is
training.
here. Your cousin was invited by the
and get
school
ready
to
to
come
get
back
on.
early to accompany
Teacher
us,
Chu walked
right?
over at this time.
Then you should know
After
what the
counting
field
the number
training
of
camp
people in the
leader looks
class,
like now,
she
right?
waved and led all
Hurry
the
up and
students
tell
to the
us.
school bus.
Will there be any
One
danger
school bus
during
for
the
each
field
training
training
period?
period? The military academy was
Your
quite
cousin
wealthy
must
and
be very
generous.
powerful.
By the
right?
time the students
Otherwise,
arrived
he
at the
shouldn't
field
have the
training
ability
camp,
to be
it was
personally
already
invited
3
by
in
the
the
school to
afternoon
come back and lead us, right?
Chapter
Lin Shuya had just
1338.
finished laughing
Field
cockily
training
when a
camp.
girl standing
The
next to
name
Lin
sounded
Shuya,
quite
who had
advanced,
already
but in
resolutely
reality,
become Lin
the
Shuya's
location
little
of the
follower,
field training camp
said
was
Lin
set in a
Shuya's
rural
cockiness
village
in
in
front of
Min City.
everyone.
The
If she
village
didn't
was
say
called
it, no one
Banqiao
would
Village.
know. It
Once
took
she
about
said
2
it,
hours
the
to get to
surrounding people
Banqiao
all
Village
looked at
from
Lin
Lin
Shuya
Shuya with
military
astonished
academy.
eyes.
Since
The
seeing the
school bus had to
surrounding
carry
people
more
looking at her
students
with
and the school
astonished
bus was
eyes,
rather large.
Lin
If the
Shuya
driver
felt that
drove
she
too
was
fast,
floating.
there was a high
She
chance of
fiercely
danger
glared at
happening.
Yun Jian, who
With
was
this in
standing
mind,
next
the
to her
driver
before
drove
Lin
slowly
Shuya
and
began to
steadily.
brag.
When
My
Yun
cousin is
Jian
one
and
of the
the
most
rest
powerful
arrived at
students in the
Village,
second year of
it
our
was already
military
3
school,
o'clock in
and
the
my cousin
afternoon.
has been training
The field
taekwondo,
training camp was
sanda, and
located
judo
in a
since
small
he was young.
forest and a small
Speaking
hill.
of this,
The school
Lin
bus
Shuya
could
looked
only
at Yun
drive to
Jian again,
Banqiao Village.
trying to see a
To get
stunned
to the field
expression on
training
Yun
camp,
Jian's face.
they had to walk
To
from
Lin
Banqiao
Shuya's
Village to the
disappointment,
field
however,
training camp.
Yun Jian
They had to
maintained
walk
her
for about
nonchalant
half an hour
expression
to get
as
to
if
the
nothing
training
could
camp
catch
that
her
was
eye.
uninhabited. There was not
They
even
had
the
just
slightest
gotten off the
change in
school
her
bus and
expression,
were not in a
let
hurry to
alone
set
being
off.
surprised by what
Banqiao
Lin
Village
Shuya
was a
said.
village, and there
Seeing
were
this,
more
Lin
older
Shuya
people
became
living in the
even
village.
angrier.
Yun
Since the
Jian's
first
class
time she
arrived
met Yun
early,
Jian,
so they
Yun
had to
Jian
wait
had
for the new
dodged her and
students
caused
from
her
the
to
other
bump
classes
into
to
a fat
arrive
and
at
sweaty
Banqiao
boy.
Village.
Until now,
Then the
the
instructors
instructors
would
would
lead
lead
them
them
into
into
the
the
mountain.
face that was
Of
unpleasant
course,
to the
before
eye.
that, the
Lin
school had to
Shuya felt that
distribute
she had to
food and
tear
tents
Yun
to
Jian's
each
face
student for them
apart
to
or
bring
her
into
name
the
would be written
mountains.
upside down.
After Yun Jian and Lin Wan got off the bus, they sat on a piece of cement in front of a house in Banqiao Village to rest their feet. After waiting for about 10 minutes or so, they saw a slender, enchanting, and slightly charming girl walk down from another school bus. She was as delicate as a little princess. It was Mu Ying. When Mu Ying saw Yun Jian, she walked over to Yun Jian. When she saw Yun Jian and Lin Wan sitting on the cement, she walked over and sat down as well. We'll be entering the mountains soon. Mu Ying pressed her hands on the cement and turned to look at Yun Jian with a smile. I miss it, Yun Jian smiled. When they were in an Hun group, there was a period of time when the group threw everyone into the Amazon forest and did not give them anything. For 6 months they were left to fend for themselves in the Amazon forest. When it came to food they had to do it themselves. If they encountered a venomous snake or a ferocious beast and didn't have any tools, they had to fight it with their bare hands. That was the worst time Yun Jian had ever been in an Hun. At the same time, those 6 months were also the best time for her to improve her strength. The Amazon forest was a dangerous forest where every species in the world lived. An average person would not survive more than 3 days in there. To be able to fight his way out of that place and survive for 6 months. Today's military training was nothing to Yun Jian. But even so, Yun Jian would treat it with 100% enthusiasm. Ing. Just as Yun Jian and Mu Ying were chatting in low voices, lowering the atmosphere slightly, Lin Wan was about to remedy the situation when a male voice sounded. Yun Jian raised her head slightly and saw a boy in a military uniform walking towards them. The boy looked to be around 18 or 19 years old. He was walking towards Mu Ying. Mu Ying raised her head and looked at the boy. She lowered her head and asked calmly, "Why are you here?" "The school invited me to come back early to lead you guys. You guys don't have any foundation in the first year of high school. It's easy for you guys to get into trouble by coming to the field training camp," the boy explained. He laughed dryly. Seeing Mu Ying's attitude towards him, his smile was bitter. Seeing Yun Jian and Lin Wan sitting beside Mu Ying, the boy paused for a moment. He then introduced himself to Yun Jian and Lin Wan. "Hello, I'm Leng Hanja. I'm in my 3rd year of high school. I should be your senior." Chapter 1339. Lung Hanja and Mu Ying knew each other, and Lung Hanja was the son of Mu Ying's parents. Ever since he was young, Lung Hanja liked Mu Ying and had always been by Mu Ying's side, protecting her. About 8 or 9 years ago, Mu Ying accidentally got into a car accident and was declared dead. However, in the morning hall, Lung Hanja remembered that a crazy and perverted doctor suddenly said that Mu Ying wasn't dead. Then, the funeral ceremony didn't take place that day. A few days later, Mu Ying was indeed resurrected. However, ever since that day Mu Ying's eyes were only cold. Even the way she looked at him was cold, without any warmth. Until today Lung Hanja still secretly liked Mu Ying. Even when he called out to her, her reply was as cold as a stranger's. Returning to reality, Lung Hanja had just pointed at the seniors who had come with him, when a delicate figure suddenly rushed over from the side. Lin Shuya flew over to a boy standing beside Lung Hanja who looked thin but was actually very strong. Lin Shuya grabbed the boy's hand in front of everyone and shouted happily, "Cousin, you're finally here." When she shouted this, Lin Shuya's voice was very loud, as if she couldn't wait for everyone in the world to know that this boy was her cousin. The surrounding students were quickly attracted by Lin Shuya's shout, especially when Lin Shuya showed off her cousin before. Her cousin was an expert in taekwondo, sanda, and judo. When the surrounding students heard the shout, they naturally turned their heads to take a look. Seeing this, Lin Shuya turned to look at Yun Jian smugly. "Now you have nothing to say, right?" Lin Shuya raised her chin proudly. "Han Ming, is this your cousin?" A boy standing beside Lin Shuya's cousin laughed and glanced at Lin Shuya, then asked Lin Shuya's cousin. Han Ming was Lin Shuya's cousin's name. "Yes." Han Ming patted Lin Shuya's shoulder and laughed loudly. His face was in high spirits, showing the attitude of a winner in life. Yun Jian and Lin Wan stood at the side and were blatantly ignored. Today Yun Jian was wearing ordinary clothes. In addition, she was sitting on the cement stone. In order not to steal the limelight, she deliberately lowered her head and didn't let others see her face, so naturally she was ignored. Just as he said this, he suddenly saw a farmer limping over here in the distance. He ran to the instructors who were standing not far away from Yun Jian and begged for help. Officer, help," he said. "There was a wild boar as big as 2 people. We've never seen such a big wild boar. Several villagers have already been injured. Officer, please save us." The village was a village and a village was a village. When the instructors heard this, they hurried over. One of the instructors frowned and turned to look at Lung Hanja. "Hanja, you and your team leaders come with us. With your current strength you should be able to help a little." "Yes." Lung Hanja and the others quickly responded. Hearing that there was a wild boar as big as 2 people, the surrounding students were dumbfounded. "Ying, I'll go. I'll be back soon." Lung Hanja turned to look at Mu Ying and said. Just as Lung Hanja and the others were about to turn and follow the instructors, a girl's voice rang out. "I'll go too." Lung Hanja and the other seniors who were leading the team as well as the surrounding students, were all stunned. They then turned to look at Yun Jian who spoke. "You're a girl, so stay where you are. This is not something you can handle with your strength." Lung Hanja glanced at Yun Jian and said. "That's right, don't be in the limelight. Someone like you." Lin Shuya seized the opportunity and rushed to scold Yun Jian. Chapter 1340. Muing had always been cold and distant in front of Lung Hanja and the others ever since she was saved by the crazy doctor from a car accident 8 or 9 years ago. Sometimes she would even sit in a corner with her head lowered and stare at the ground with her dark eyes. No one could guess what she was thinking about. After that, Muing had been acting strangely. She had always been quiet in front of others. She was quite understanding in front of Lung Hanja. Today, when she heard Lung Hanja and Lin Shuya questioning Yun Jian's strength, what Muing said in front of Lung Hanja and the others was the most she had said in the past few years. Therefore Lung Hanja and the others were stunned. What shocked Lung Hanja and the others even more was what Muing said. What did you say? She survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months with her bare hands? He probably doesn't even have a passport now, Lin Shuya was stunned. Moreover, all the students around them were students who had graduated from middle school. Even the instructor who was accompanying the farmer to the wild boar Amazon forest for 6 months. Everyone looked at Yun Jian in shock. Would a normal person run into the Amazon forest like a crazy person? The Amazon forest was the forest with the most species in the world. Yun Jian ignored these people's words. At the same time, there were all kinds of dangerous creatures in the Amazon forest. Didn't bother to say anything else. Just thinking about it was enough to know how dangerous it was. Lin Wan was stunned for a moment before she Amazon with her long legs. They might not even survive for 3 days. You're talking nonsense, aren't you? Not to mention 6 months. You fantasized that you stayed in the Amazon forest for 6 months. Who doesn't know about this any dangerous creatures? Seriously, then whoever believes you is an idiot. For 6 months, one had to eat every day and face all kinds of venomous snakes exposed by her and her cousin. Survived, so they ran to the side in embarrassment. How is that possible? Just as she thought, how could she survive in the Amazon to the farmer who was standing beside the instructor? How old is she? And grabbing the farmer's collar, tried to find words to refute Yun Jian's prowess, but as she spoke, her words became incoherent. By me. Cousin, say something. Even an expert like you who knows Taekwondo, Sanda, and Judo wouldn't dare to go to such a place, right? She's a woman, how could she? Lin Shuya didn't want Yun Jian to be the center of attention. She was anxious to find any words to deny Yun Jian's power. She even brought the topic to her cousin Han Ming. You girls shouldn't talk nonsense. The Amazon forest isn't a place where you can go as you please. At your age, I'm afraid you don't even have passports, right? You can't even leave the country without a passport. I'm afraid you haven't even left the country before, right? So don't talk nonsense. Han Ming also had a strong desire to show off. He didn't want to see someone stronger than him, not to mention that the other party was a girl. After hearing Han Ming's words, the people around her seemed to suddenly understand. Was it Muing herself who was bragging about Yun Jian? How old were they? Chapter 1341. Yun Jian was indirectly accusing the farmer of forgetting his companions who were still in danger because of other things. Everyone was stunned. Just now, everyone thought that Yun Jian would explain something in the face of Lin Shuya and Han Ming's doubts. After all, boys and girls in puberty didn't want to be refuted by anyone. But Yun Jian didn't. Not only did Yun Jian not do that, but she even walked over and grabbed the farmer's collar, giving him a simple lesson. The farmer was stunned by Yun Jian's words. Then he quickly reacted. His companions were still in danger, so the farmer scratched his head and quickly led the way. Here, here. Yun Jian let go of the farmer's collar. She didn't even look at the group of senior instructors and students standing behind her. She just walked forward and followed the farmer. Muing also followed Yun Jian's footsteps. Lin Wan shouted, I'm going too, and also strode forward. We're going too. Standing in place, the senior instructors from all over the country were stunned. They were shocked. They weren't even as conscious as a new girl in high school. On the other side, the matter of the wild boar attacking people was not over yet. They actually stood in the same place because of the shocking news. They were stunned silly. The senior instructors chased after her, and so did Lung Hanja and the others. Hey, you're all going. I'm going too. Lin Shuya was still unwilling to see Yun Jian in the limelight in front of everyone. She paused twice and then chased after her. So many people had gone and there were instructors protecting them. No matter how dangerous it was, it wouldn't involve them. Thinking of this, the students who were standing in place all ran over. There was a hillside near Banqiao village. In the depths of the hillside was a forest, and outside the hillside was a flat land. Originally this place was very quiet. The village would often gather farmers and go into the mountains from here to cut firewood. At this moment there were at least a dozen farmers standing there. At this time each of them was holding a hoe in their hands. Directly opposite the dozen farmers, a big and fat wild boar the size of 2 adults was letting out a muffled howl. It looked like it would pounce on the farmers at any time. The wild boar's hair was gray and black, which was completely different from domesticated pigs. Domesticated pigs weren't aggressive, but wild boars could attack people. If one looked carefully, one of the dozen farmers were already injured. Why isn't old Wang back yet? We can't hold on any longer. A farmer who had just been bitten in the stomach by a wild boar, curled up in pain, shouted. What should we do? This wild boar is too strong. Even with more than 10 of us, we can't suppress it at all. Someone shouted again. However, if one were to look closely, this wild boar, which was as big as 2 people, was also slightly injured. Its abdomen had been slashed and blood was gushing out. Why is this beast so difficult? Even with more than 10 of us, we can't suppress it. Someone shouted hatefully. Oh whoa. Just then, the wild boar opposite them roared and was about to launch its final attack on the dozen farmers. F***ck, we're finished, someone shouted in despair. At the same time, he held the hoe in his hand even tighter. Chapter 1342. This clear and beautiful female voice seemed to have a bit of magic, causing everyone present to be stunned. One by one they were affected by this voice and all stepped to the side, making way for her. It was also at this moment that a figure as fast as lightning shuttled through the dozen of farmers, heading straight for the wild boar that was the size of 2 adults not far away. Heavens, that's a little girl. She's going to die. There are so many of us, but we're no match for that wild boar. Little girl, come back. Come back. When the farmers saw that the newcomer was just a little girl in her teens, they all shouted in panic. A group of people rushed over from afar. They were the instructors Lung Hanja, Lin Shuya, and the others. Crazy, this little girl is crazy. Save her. Come with me to save her. When the instructors saw the size of the wild boar, one of them took the lead and rushed over. Looking at the faces of these instructors, Each and every one of them was extremely gloomy. These instructors were all senior instructors from all over the country. Naturally, they were different from ordinary instructors. Therefore, the instructors quickly reacted and chased after Yunjian. Humph, who asked her to be so arrogant? I think she should just die in the wild boar's hands. How dare she try to harm our instructors? Shameless. Lin Shuya casually said angrily. Ming, control your cousin. Don't spout nonsense. When Leng Hanja heard Lin Shuya insult Yun Jian in such a tone, he knew that Yun Jian was special to Mu Ying. Leng Hanja and Han Ming were friends. Both of them were members of the Min City Military Academy's student union. Lin Shuya was Han Ming's cousin. Leng Hanja didn't know Lin Shuya, but he was very familiar with Han Ming. Therefore, under such circumstances, Leng Hanja turned to look at Han Ming and said, Asia, it's my cousin's mouth. I can't do anything about it. When Han Ming heard this, he helplessly waved his hand at Leng Hanja. Slap. Before Han Ming could finish his words, a sharp slap sounded. This slap was directly aimed at Lin Shuya's face, and she was thrown to the ground in front of everyone. Leng Hanja and Han Ming didn't even have time to react. By the time she reacted, Mu Ying had already warned Lin Shuya coldly and solemnly. My hands are stained with blood. If I hear you say anything bad about her again, I don't mind making you one of the dead souls under my blade. Mu Ying had killed a lot of people. Although she didn't kill as many people as Yun Jian, she had lived for 9 years in an Han organization. 9 years old meant that Mu Ying had been in an Han for 4 years. To be able to survive in an Han for 4 years, he must have killed a lot of people. In her previous life, Mu Ying was 1.5 years older than Yun Jian. Mu Ying's current body was smaller than before, but it was exactly the same size as Yun Jian's current body. Otherwise, according to Mu Ying's actual age, she should be 18.5 years old now. Mu Ying's strength was very fierce, so Lin Shuya's heart jumped fiercely. However, Lin Shuya was still angry. Lin Shuya was about to stand up and curse Mu Ying, saying, It's useless for you to lie to me. But she was suddenly shocked by a figure in the distance. Yun Jian pulled out an ordinary butterfly knife from her small bag in front of the instructors, farmers, and the students who came later. She held the butterfly knife in her hand and ran towards the wild boar nimbly. Seeing this, the wild boar also ran towards Yun Jian. The two figures came and went, and the people in the distance couldn't help but hold their breaths. Yun Jian ran past the wild boar, so fast that the people in the distance couldn't even catch a glimpse of Yun Jian's figure. The people didn't even see Yun Jian's movements clearly. She had already flashed past the wild boar and stood behind the wild boar. After that, she gently threw the bloodless butterfly knife back into her small school bag. Everyone was surprised. That wild boar hadn't been killed yet. How did she? Ow. Just as everyone was thinking this, the wild boar suddenly howled, and then fell to the ground in front of everyone's eyes. When everyone came to their senses, they all stared with their eyes wide open. Her knife, her speed, was actually faster than the speed at which the wild boar spat out fresh blood after being stabbed in its vital parts. Wherever the knife passed, there wasn't a single trace of blood on the tip of the knife. How fast must one's knife skills be to achieve this? Was she really just an ordinary female student? At this moment, even the senior instructors who were trying to catch up and stop Yun Jian stopped in their tracks, dumbfounded on the spot. Chapter 1343. The instructors were all senior instructors in the country. They had trained countless students, and they had even brought the students to the field training camp for military training many times. When they had time, military schools like high schools and universities would often organize students to participate in activities such as survival in the wild. The ones who led the students to participate were all senior instructors present. With the addition of the word senior, they were a little different from the usual military training instructors. Since the senior instructors began their military training career, countless things had happened. There were students who couldn't stand the military training in the field training camp and cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. There were also incidents similar to wild beasts attacking students. But which one of these incidents wasn't resolved by the instructors themselves? But this little girl in front of them? This little girl in front of them used a butterfly knife and killed this wild boar that even a dozen farmers couldn't kill. Not only that, she killed the wild boar with a single slash. The speed at which she twirled the blade was so fast that even the blood on the wild boar's body didn't splatter on the blade. What kind of speed was this? What kind of person could reach this level? The instructors had never seen such terrifying knife skills in a person, let alone a person who could use such terrifying knife skills. She was just a female student. Wow. Oh my god. Yun Jian, you're too cool. From today onwards, I'll be your #1 fan. Lin Wan clapped and screamed on the spot. On the other side, Yun Jian turned her body slightly, her sharp eyes seemingly reflecting a powerful glint. Then she smiled at Lin Wan and Mu Ying. Lung Hanja and Han Ming, who were standing behind the instructors, were extremely shocked. The students who followed them were also stunned, and their mouths were trembling in shock. As for Lin Shuya, she was embarrassed as much as she doubted Yun Jian's strength. I thought this wild boar would be strong, but I didn't expect it to be so weak. Yun Jian put away the butterfly knife and walked towards Mu Ying with light steps. Others might not know, but how could Mu Ying not know? Yun Jian didn't want to be in the limelight. In other words, Yun Jian came to the military training today because she wanted to improve her strength. The improvement of one's strength was not something that could be achieved by just talking or practicing in private. That required actual combat, survival in the jungle, and experience. When she heard that there was a wild boar as big as 2 people, Yun Jian became restless because she wanted to kill this wild boar and increase her strength in the process. But he didn't expect this wild boar to be so weak. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the surrounding farmers all lowered their heads in shame. Did she just say that this wild boar couldn't withstand a single blow? Just now, they were forced to the point where they couldn't fight back by this wild boar, wasn't it? Relying on his little bit of ability to start showing off again. Lin Shuya was not reconciled this time, and began to speak in a low voice again, but this time, Lin Shuya did not dare to speak too loudly. After all, Yun Jian had real strength. Mu Ying and Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya. Mu Ying's red lips curled up slightly, and she walked towards Yun Jian. Under the surprised gazes of Lung Hanja, Han Ming, and the others, she spoke to Yun Jian again. Then after the military training is over, shall we go to the Amazon forest again? As she spoke, Mu Ying was already standing in front of Yun Jian. She smiled slightly and then seemed to have thought of something and said, "Let's go and see that old man on the way. Without that old man's help, I wouldn't be where I am now." Yun Jian and Mu Ying were thrown into the Amazon forest together by an Han organization, and both of them survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months each. Yun Jian relied on her own strength to survive. Mu Ying was almost bitten to death by a poisonous snake, and when she was about to die, she was saved by a strange old man who was stationed in the Amazon forest all year round. Ordinary people did not even dare to spend the night in the Amazon forest, but that old man lived in the Amazon forest for 40 to 50 years. Mu Ying mentioned this to Yun Jian before, and although Yun Jian had never heard of that old man, she really wanted to meet him. Now that Mu Ying mentioned it again, Yun Jian smiled. "Sure, after the military training is over, we'll go back to the Amazon forest for a walk." At this moment, Yun Jian and Mu Ying's words were undoubtedly the focus of everyone's attention. Lung Hanja and the others were dumbfounded when they heard Yun Jian and Mu Ying make it sound so easy to go to the Amazon forest. Everyone was stunned. After Lung Hanja reacted, he quickly said. Chapter 1344. Lung Hanja was truly concerned about Mu Ying. Lung Hanja had fallen in love with Mu Ying since he was 7 or 8 years old when he first saw her. Mu Ying was kind to him when they were young, although she did not show any signs of liking him. Even so, Lung Hanja still liked Mu Ying from the bottom of his heart. However, ever since Mu Ying's car accident, Lung Hanja could not see through Mu Ying. Lung Hanja and Mu Ying's parents were family friends. They grew up together and could be considered childhood sweethearts. However, Lung Hanja had always been secretly protecting Mu Ying and secretly liked Mu Ying. The reason why Lung Hanja did not believe Mu Ying's words about going back to the Amazon forest was because he had been protecting Mu Ying since they were young. To put it bluntly, even if Mu Ying went to the toilet, Lung Hanja would know when she went to the toilet. He just did not say it out loud. As for Mu Ying going to the Amazon forest, he had never seen it. He had never seen Mu Ying go abroad. Moreover, Lung Hanja would never think that Mu Ying was no longer the Mu Ying of the past. Lung Hanja knew that he liked the current Mu Ying. He liked her so much that he was willing to hide his love for her and not let her find out. He was willing to protect her secretly. Mu Ying frowned when she heard Lung Hanja's words. She knew that Lung Hanja liked her. However, she could not let go of anyone and had never let go of anyone. Perhaps it was because of her childhood experience that she could not love someone boldly like a normal girl. At least she could not love him now. "It's none of your business, it's my business." Mu Ying was still smiling at Yun Jian, but when she looked at Lung Hanja, her face instantly turned cold. Seeing this, Lung Hanja clenched his fists. His heart turned cold, but in the next second he said to Mu Ying seriously, "Ying, you can go if you want, but take me with you." If she wanted to go, he wouldn't object. But if he wanted to go with her, then even if she was in danger, he could protect her. He might not be that powerful, but he would protect her even if he had to give up his life. "It's up to you." Muing said indifferently. Ha ha. Right at this time, Lin Shuya's laughter suddenly sounded. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She gently turned her head and saw Lin Shuya holding her abdomen, laughing so hard that she couldn't stand straight. When the people around heard Lin Shuya's laughter, they all looked over. At this time, Lin Shuya had finished laughing. She looked at Yun Jian. The hatred in her eyes could be seen by anyone. However, Lin Shuya looked at Yun Jian. She said to Yun Jian very mockingly, "Still want to go shopping? Did you hear what she said just now? She said she was going to go shopping in the Amazon forest. Ah. Does she think the Amazon forest is her home? Shopping. I'm dying of laughter." Also, Yun Jian, do you really think you're invincible just because you killed a wild boar? Let's not talk about how many talents there are in the world. There are plenty of talents in Country Z. Do you think you're invincible just because you killed a wild boar? I'm dying of laughter. Haha, do you think you're the leader of an international assassin organization like those movies? Do you think you have countless assassins and secret agents working for you? Chapter 1345. Lin Shuya's laughter infected almost all the students. However, after hearing Lin Shuya's words, the surrounding students felt that it was indeed reasonable. That's right, it's just killing a wild boar. There are many powerful people in this world. We are still young, so we can't be so conceited. The little follower standing next to Lin Shuya immediately raised his head and agreed loudly. After hearing Lin Shuya's words, especially her sentence, "Do you think you have countless assassins and Secret Service agents working for you?" Yun Jian's cold lips curled up slightly without anyone noticing. Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya. "You can't say that. This little junior is really capable. At least she killed that wild boar just now. This is an ironclad fact. In short, I believe what she said just now." Just when Lin Shuya was a little unconvinced, a slightly more mature female voice sounded. Hearing this, even Yun Jian couldn't help but turn her head to look. She saw a girl in her late teens walking over. The girl was wearing the same military training camouflage uniform as Lung Hanja and the others. Her tall and slender figure was wrapped in the camouflage uniform, and she looked enchanting and charming. The girl was also good-looking. Even though she was wrapped in a loose uniform, one could still see her slender figure at a glance. The girl walked over. Her face looked amiable. She smiled slightly, giving off the feeling of a gentle big sister. "Senior Lingling?" Lin Shuya was dumbfounded when she saw the girl speaking up for Yun Jian and walking toward them. She glanced at the girl blankly before asking, "Senior Lingling, Didn't you already refuse to return to school early to lead the military training for the freshmen? Han Ming, who was standing next to Lin Shuya, was obviously very familiar with the girl who suddenly appeared. He opened his mouth and asked. The girl who was called Senior Lingling was called Wen Peeling. She was a senior in Min City Military Academy. Like Lung Hanja and Han Ming, she was also a member of the Min City Military Academy Student Council. Lung Hanja was the president of the Student Council, and Wen Peeling was the vice president of the Student Council. Although they weren't in the same grade and class, Lung Hanja, Wen Peeling and Han Ming often met at the student union meetings. As for Lin Shuya had gone to the Min City Military Academy to look for Han Ming before, so she knew Wen Peeling through Han Ming. In addition, Wen Peeling was very kind, giving people the feeling that she was a big sister, so Lin Shuya and Wen Peeling got close. I had something to do at the last minute, so I went back to school early. I was thinking about the school's invitation, so I had to come over to greet the freshmen, Wen Peeling explained to Han Ming. Then Wen Peeling waved at Lin Shuya. Shuya, I haven't seen you for a few months and you've become more and more beautiful. Don't be so angry in the future or you'll get wrinkles easily. Wen Peeling's words made Lin Shuya cover her face. Lin Shuya changed the way she bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Yun Jian and stuck her tongue out at Wen Peeling. Got it, Senior Lingling. It had to be said that Wen Peeling had some skills. She was older, so she got along well with people. After greeting her acquaintances, Wen Peeling turned around to look at Yun Jian, Mu Ying and Lin Wan. Hello, I'm Wen Peeling, your senior in the 3rd grade. Wen Peeling smiled at Yun Jian and the others. Her smile was very sweet. After smiling, Wen Peeling turned to look at Yun Jian. She smiled at Yun Jian and continued, Junior, what's your name? You were really good just now. Also, I believe what you said just now. As she spoke, Wen Peeling winked at Yun Jian and Mu Ying. Chapter 1346. Yun Jian, what a nice name. She's as beautiful as you. Wen Peeling praised Yun Jian greatly. This time Yun Jian just pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Okay, if there's nothing else, go back to Banqiao village. We'll be distributing the food in tents later, and you'll have to change into the military training camouflage uniform. Since the matter had been resolved and it was getting late, one of the instructors stood up and said, Let's go back to the dormitory for a while. As soon as the instructor spoke, the students all retreated to Banqiao village. Let's go too. Lin Wan turned her head to look at Yun Jian, then at Mu Ying and then said, Okay. Yun Jian nodded gently. When the 3 of them were about to leave, the senior instructor who urged the students to go back to Banqiao village called out to Yun Jian in time. After the dozen or so villagers carried the big and fat wild boar away, the senior instructor who called out to Yun Jian spoke to Yun Jian in front of all the slightly surprised instructors. She nodded indifferently, then turned her head to Mu Ying and Lin Wan and said, You may not know me, but it's okay, I know you. You're the advanced special forces soldier with the code name Killing God under old G's command, was stopped by the instructor. All right, so they both nodded and walked back. Once Instructor Zhou don't walk so fast, wait for me. The eyes of the instructors around him lit up. Walking in the direction of Banqiao who led the Zhe province army to join forces with the kosher mercenaries and in hunt to wipe out the Inferno Ring and left with Wen Peeling. Another instructor exclaimed in shock. After the surrounding group of instructors came from all over the country who called out to Yun Jian just now came Country Z. The surrounding senior instructors hadn't left yet. What kind of talent had they not seen? Instructors were a little confused. However, they had never seen a talent like Yun Jian. They had heard of dozen or so farmers standing around ago and heard that she was a girl. Although this wild boar was ferocious, Chapter the wild boar died, its meat tasted even better than domesticated pigs. Naturally, the villagers would not let go of such a delicacy. Senior instructors now, more than a dozen farmers were planning to divide this wild boar. She was different from the average student, that Yun Jian was stopped by the instructors. Proud of herself. One of the farmers came over and stood in front of Yun Jian. Just say what you want. Her with I don't like to beat around the bush. Sincerely, looking at the instructor who stopped her just now. Little Yun Jian's expression didn't change at all as she said it out loud. Thank you for your help just now. Even in front of so many instructors. My wife will be cooking dinner later. Yun Jian wasn't afraid at all. I'll bring the wild boar back and let her cook like this. The instructors present were all stunned. You must come to my house for dinner later. Instructor Zhou was also stunned for a moment. The farmer who claimed to be the village chief was very enthusiastic. If it was any other adolescent boy or girl, they would definitely be proud of themselves. So I won't be staying for dinner. She wasn't even afraid of saying the wrong thing in front of the instructors. The village chief was a reasonable person. Instructor Zhou covered his mouth and coughed lightly to show his embarrassment, so he did not force her. He did have something to talk to Yun Jian about. But just now he planned to chat with Yun Jian for a while, planning to get familiar with Yun Jian before talking about business. But since Yun Jian saw through it, then Instructor Zhou didn't plan to hide it anymore. Ahem, I do have something to talk to you about. Instructor Zhou said, paused, then continued. It's like this, This time our military academy's military training will last for about a month. In the past, there weren't many military training sites in the field, and the students didn't have any experience before this. But for this year's freshmen, the higher-ups issued a new notice, saying that in the last 7 days of this month's military training, you have to participate in a field survival activity. During the activity there will be danger if you are willing to participate, but once you complete the mission in the activity, you will be transferred to the school's newly planned elite class to receive better training. This elite class is your year's batch. The school's teaching and research team has just decided to open it. If it's done well, they plan to open an elite class for every batch after your year, so... Instructor Zhou rambled on, making Yun Jian frown a little as she listened to him. She interrupted Instructor Zhou coldly, "Get to the point." Being interrupted by Yun Jian out of the blue, Instructor Zhou felt a sense of seriousness like she was his superior, so he corrected himself right away. In short, there will be a survival activity for the students in the last 7 days of the military training. Those who successfully complete the activity will be able to join the elite class. I want to ask you to do your best to ensure the safety of the other students during the survival activity. This wilderness survival activity is voluntary, right? How can you be so sure that I will choose to participate? Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at Instructor Zhou. Under the gaze of all the instructors, she did not show the slightest bit of fear. On the contrary, Instructor Zhou was now Yun Jian's superior. However, the instructor standing next to him had an illusion. It was as if Yun Jian, who was standing in front of Instructor Zhou, was their leader and superior. What was with this feeling? You will definitely participate. This time, Instructor Zhou said very confidently. Because as long as you join the elite class and study in our school for a year, or if you perform well for half a semester, you will have the opportunity to represent our Z country and be directly sent to the South American hunting school to participate in the Special Forces training. Instructor Zhou's words successfully attracted Yun Jian's attention. The hunting school was a world-famous Special Forces training center. The elimination rate of students enrolled in the school was 50% to 80%, and the death rate was extremely high. But if she could be trained, she would definitely be able to compete with the Secret Service assassins trained by the ordinary Secret Service assassin organization. If she entered the hunting school and returned from the training, Yun Jian's strength would definitely double from her current foundation, even more powerful than in her previous life. Chapter 1348. Instructor Zhou was very smart. He knew how to make demands based on what she was thinking. Yun Jian wanted to improve her strength. The other instructors did not notice this because Yun Jian hid it well. However, Instructor Zhou noticed it. This meant that Instructor Zhou was very observant and smart. Hey Zhou Jiren, are you stupid? They are learning to live freely. Why would they go to a place like the hunting school? That place is not a place for people to stay. The mortality rate is also high. Those who failed halfway and were driven back were already lucky. She's a good girl. How could she go to that kind of place? People will die in that place. One of the instructors heard Instructor Zhou say this to Yun Jian. This instructor started to preach to Instructor Zhou on the spot. The other instructors heard this instructor's words and felt that it was reasonable. All the instructors felt that Instructor Zhou was talking nonsense. Which normal girl would want to go to that kind of place? Especially the children nowadays. Every one of them liked to enjoy life. No one liked to go to that kind of place to suffer. And something could happen at any time. What's more, after entering the hunting school, there was no way to quit. In that place, unless you failed the assessment and were eliminated, you had to stay in there even if you died. Little girl, don't listen to his nonsense. That kind of place is not something you can go to. However, I really need your help in this wilderness survival activity. An instructor standing at the side said to Yun Jian with a smile. Just as the instructor said this, Yun Jian's voice interrupted him. The instructors present heard it clearly. I agree. I will try to ensure the safety of the other students in the wilderness survival activity. However, if they don't listen to me and something happens to them, it has nothing to do with me. In addition, the premise of all this is that after I join the elite class, you must help me get a place to go to the hunting school. Yun Jian was not a little girl without any social experience. Since Instructor Zhou had made a request, she naturally would not help if he could not guarantee that she would get what she wanted. Instructor Zhou sighed at Yun Jian's shrewdness. He did not forget to reply to her, okay. I promise. Okay, then I'll leave first. Yun Jian glanced at Instructor Zhou from the corner of her eyes, then turned around and walked in the direction where Mu Ying and Lin Wan had left. After Yun Jian left, Instructor Zhou laughed and shook his head. The younger generation will surpass us in time, the younger generation will surpass us in time. We are already old. Mu Ying and Lin Wan had already received their equipment: tents, camouflage uniforms, food, and water. She stood in place and waited for Yun Jian. Then she saw a figure walking over. Yun Jian, over here. Lin Wan waved at Yun Jian. At this moment Lin Wan and Mu Ying were sitting together, and the two of them were quite congenial. Let's go get our equipment. Mu Ying patted her military travel bag lightly. Don't look down on this travel bag. The things that could be packed in this bag were not few. All the equipment that was just distributed had already been packed in this military travel bag. Yun Jian nodded, then walked towards the teacher who was distributing the equipment. Yo, what did the instructor say to you just now? Just when Yun Jian was halfway there, Lin Shuya stopped Yun Jian. She spoke to Yun Jian in a strange tone. Trash, you don't need to know. If I were you, I would shrink into a ball and scram. Yun Jian's footsteps paused. This time she did not ignore Lin Shuya. Instead, she turned her head and said something to Lin Shuya in a good mood. Chapter 1349. After receiving the equipment, Yun Jian put everything into the military travel bag that was just distributed, and then returned to where Mu Ying and Lin Wan were. Hey Yun Jian, that Lin Shuya's face was as ugly as if she ate sh*t. Did you say something funny just now? Tell us, let's have some fun. Lin Wan looked at Lin Shuya, who was far away, and she laughed twice and said, It's fine if she doesn't talk, but when she does, it's absolutely infuriating. Mu Ying sat next to Lin Wan. She pinched open a bottle of mineral water, drank a few mouthfuls to moisten her throat, and then turned her head to Lin Wan and said, Haha, you know Yun Jian so well, then the two of you must have a very good relationship, right? Lin Wan asked at this time and then sighed again. Wow, I'm so envious of the friendship between the two of you. Lin Wan's personality was quite straightforward. She usually didn't use her brain to think about what she wanted to say. Friendship? Maybe Yun Jian and I, maybe it can be considered friendship. After hearing Lin Wan's words, Mu Ying turned her head to look at Lin Wan, and then looked into the distance and said. Yun Jian also sat on the cement stone, pursed her lips and said nothing in the end. Others might not understand, but Yun Jian understood what Mu Ying said. Mu Ying still hadn't walked out of the cruel world of her previous life. In that world, Yun Jian and Mu Ying had no friendship, and they couldn't even be considered friends. They snuggled together just to find a sense of security from each other. If it was really a matter of life and death, Mu Ying had to make a move on Yun Jian, or Yun Jian had to make a move on Mu Ying. At that moment, no one would be merciful, because who didn't want to live? But in the end, Mu Ying died for Yun Jian. To be honest, Mu Ying was willing to die for her at that moment. Yun Jian never thought that. Because at that time, Yun Jian was willing to kill Mu Ying in order to survive. So in her previous life, the word friendship couldn't be used to measure their relationship. She's deliberately mystifying things again. Some people, thinking that their companion killed a wild boar, started bragging. Lin Shuya, who was standing at the side, heard Mu Ying's words and said sourly. Even if those words weren't said by Yun Jian, as long as it involved Yun Jian, Lin Shuya would start talking nonsense. In fact, Lin Shuya had a lot of opinions about Mu Ying and Yun Jian because Mu Ying and Yun Jian were too mysterious. That mysterious feeling made Lin Shuya hate Mu Ying and Yun Jian to the core. On the other side, Lung Hanja had been paying attention to Mu Ying. Lung Hanja stood not far away, and Han Ming and the other seniors who were invited back by the school to lead the team were also not far away. Seeing that Lung Hanja was staring at Mu Ying, Wen Peeling, who was standing not far away, had a sharp glint in her eyes, but it was gone in a flash. 3 juniors, do you want to drink some Sprite? I brought a bottle of Sprite and a few bags of potato chips. Do you want to eat? Wen Peeling stood up and walked towards Yun Jian and the others. She even very politely patted her military travel bag and said, I don't eat snacks. I don't eat snacks from strangers. Yun Jian didn't say the last sentence. Wen Peeling smiled awkwardly, then took the bag of potato chips out of the military travel bag and handed it to Mu Ying. Before Wen Peeling could say anything, Mu Ying interrupted her. I don't eat snacks either. I'll eat it, thank you, senior. Lin Wan took the bag of potato chips from Wen Peeling's hand. She smiled and thanked Wen Peeling, then opened the bag of potato chips and started munching on them. Eat slowly, there's Sprite here. Wen Peeling smiled and poured a cup of Sprite for Lin Wan. Senior, you're so nice. Unlike some people. Lin Wan glared fiercely at Lin Shuya, then said to Wen Peeling. You. Lin Shuya, who was in the distance, almost exploded. Okay, everyone stop quarreling. We're here for military training, so we have to get along peacefully. When Peeling interrupted the quarrel between Lin Wan and Lin Shuya, she smiled brightly. Perhaps they were affected by Wen Peeling's atmosphere. Lin Wan and Lin Shuya really stopped quarreling. Hey, there's a car coming from there. Just as everyone was about to leave Banqiao village and walk for about half an hour on the mountain road to the field training camp base, a military jeep came this way. Seeing this, the people around them opened their eyes curiously, wanting to see who the people in the car were. Even the instructors who had returned here were a little surprised. Who came here? There were only a few families in Banqiao village who could drive here. And the most important thing was that this car was a military jeep. Seeing this familiar jeep, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. This car was Gu Yunjian's. Just as he was thinking this, he saw 6 figures get out of the car. It was none other than the other 6 members of Team Monarch, namely Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the rest. Wow, I know them. Heavens. They're from Team Monarch. They actually came here? Could it be that they came here to cheer for us? Someone shouted loudly. Now, Team Monarch's name was the most prominent in Min City Military Academy. Some of the students could even brag about a conversation they had with Team Monarch. Team Monarch? Lin Shuya was equally stunned when she saw how shocked everyone around her was. Yes, it's Team Monarch. I've seen them before. I worked so hard to get into Min City Military Academy because they're here. Look, that's Chu Xiangnan from Team Monarch, codename Thunderbolt. So cool. A girl around them screamed so loudly that she almost fainted. Lin Shuya and the rest were secretly impressed. Team Monarch was amazing. Just as they thought that, they saw Chu Ning tugging Chu Xiangnan's ear and bringing the rest of them to Yun Jian. Chu Ning looked at Yun Jian and smiled, saying, Yun Jian, we're here to cheer for you. You'll have to make Team Monarch proud in the wilderness survival event this time. It'll be best if you can get into the elite class, hee. Chu Ning's words left the crowd dumbfounded. Lin Shuya and the rest were dumbfounded as well. What? Yun Jian was a member of Team Monarch too. Moreover, after a careful count, he realized that Chu Ning's Team Monarch was only missing one person. And that person was Team Monarch's most legendary, most powerful, killing god. Chapter 1350. The students around them, Lin Shuya, Lung Hanja, Wen Peeling, Han Ming, as well as the students from other classes, were dumbfounded. Was there any other news that they had always admired? Many of them had even come to the military school because they heard that Slashing God was studying in Min City's military academy. In the end, not only was Slashing God among them, but she was also a skinny girl who looked like she could not fight. If Yun Jian was really Slashing God, then it was not so unbelievable that she had killed the wild boar alone just now. So she's Slashing God? Lin Shuya asked blankly the moment Chu Ning dragged Chu Xiangnan to Yun Jian. She was still in disbelief. Before this, Lin Shuya was still in awe when she heard Slashing God's title. She's so valuable. My Yun Jian. Chu Ning replied to Lin Shuya before mimicking a soft female voice and pounced on Yun Jian. She even pushed away Chu Xiangnan, who had been dragging her all the way. Chu Xiangnan scratched his head helplessly. Yun Jian did not even look up. She extended a hand to stop Chu Ning from pouncing on her and asked, "Why are you guys here?" "They insisted on coming to cheer you on, so I brought them here," Good Yun Jian, who got down from the military jeep, answered Yun Jian. "Yeah, Yun Jian, we came all the way from Longmen City to cheer you on. I heard that freshmen like you can sign up for the wilderness survival activity in the last 7 days. Those who pass can join the elite class, so we're here to cheer you on." Chu Ning hugged Yun Jian's arm that was extended to her. She explained to Yun Jian with a grin. "What's the wilderness survival activity? What's the elite class?" Lung Hanja, who stood not far away, was the first to notice the problem and asked. The rest of the students realized the point they did not understand at once and turned their eyes to the senior instructors who were in charge of the students present. "Ha Old Gu, your daughter's performance is amazing. I recognized her right away." Instructor Zhou went up to Gu Junjian to give him a big hug when he saw Gu Junjian. Then Instructor Zhou turned around and explained to the students about the wilderness survival activity and the elite class. "Your military training will last for a month this time. You've been going through the usual military training before this. The training content is nothing more than standing and so on. We'll also bring you into the forest to teach you the key to survive in the wilderness. We won't let you go in blindly. In addition, there'll be a wilderness survival activity on the last 7 days of the military training. It might not be safe, but it can guarantee your safety. Those who are willing to join, we won't force you. However, if you succeed in the activity, you can join another elite class. It's a new class that hasn't been opened for the 2nd and 3rd years of high school. Once you enter the elite class, it means that you can go to a better and better place to be trained at any time. Of course, if you fail in the wilderness survival activity this time, you'll have all sorts of opportunities to join the elite class in the future." Instructor Zhou explained it in detail, afraid that the students would not understand. He also pointed out clearly that they would only be specially trained if they entered the elite class. Since he had said that, Instructor Zhou did not mind telling the students to work hard. "If you enter the elite class and perform well, you might be able to represent our country's special forces and enter the hunting school for practical training in 10 or 20 years' time." Some of the girls were confused when Instructor Zhou finished his words. At this moment, Lung Hanja suddenly asked excitedly, "Instructor Zhou, is the hunting school the Special Forces training base in South America?" "It's called the Devil's Training School. The death rate is extremely high, but once you've completed the training, you'll be able to fight like a killer who climbed out of a pile of corpses?" Everyone gasped when they heard Lung Hanja's words. Yun Jian, who was standing at the side, raised her eyebrows. After Lung Hanja finished his question, she asked Instructor Zhou, "I can only go to the hunting school after 10 or 20 years after entering the elite class. I can't wait that long." Yun Jian's words shocked the students again. Chapter 1351. Moreover, judging from Yun Jian's tone, it was as if it was inevitable that she would go to the hunting school with a high mortality rate. Since the establishment of the hunting school, only a dozen to 20 special forces from Z country have been admitted. Moreover, those who were eliminated in the middle were mostly missing an arm or a leg. They were considered lucky. Usually, the bodies of those who were eliminated in the middle were sent back directly. "Yun Jian, do you really want to go to such a place?" Lung Hanja asked because Yun Jian was Mu Ying's friend. "I have to go." After Yun Jian finished speaking, she turned her gaze to Instructor Zhou in front of everyone. Instructor Zhou had yet to reply to her question. When he first told her, Instructor Zhou said that she could go to the hunting school after studying in the elite class for a year or even half a semester if she was fast. However, he now said that after entering the elite class, she would have to stay in the elite class for another 10 to 20 years. She might not even be able to go to the hunting school. That's for the ordinary people who can enter the elite class. As for you, I estimate that you'll be qualified to go to the hunting school in half a semester. Instructor Zhou praised Yun Jian highly. Those who could enter the elite class were definitely the cream of the crop. However, in Yun Jian's case, even the elites of the elite class had to add an ordinary in front of them. However, it made sense. The elites of the elite class had to wait for another 10 to 20 years before they had the chance to represent the country to go to the hunting school. It was the lifelong wish of many special forces to be able to enter the hunting school for training. Instructor Zhou's evaluation of Yun Jian shocked all the students who were standing around. Even Gu Junjian did not expect Instructor Zhou to have such a high evaluation of Yun Jian. Instructor Zhou was a senior instructor. Even in the international arena, he had a certain amount of status. Anything that came out of his mouth would definitely not be something that he would just talk about. Instructor Zhou, is she really that powerful? Lin Shuya's unconvinced voice was heard. Hearing this, the group of people standing around even had the urge to send Lin Shuya flying with a slap. How could she refute the instructor's words? At this time, Instructor Zhou's words were heard again. He looked at Yun Jian with a probing gaze and said, I'm afraid her strength is more powerful than I thought. As for how capable she is, you can ask her yourself. In fact, all the instructors present wanted to know this very much. Lin Shuya didn't expect to get such an answer. She stomped her feet and walked away unconvinced. Yun Jian pretended not to hear Instructor Zhou's question and pretended not to say anything. Seeing this, Instructor Zhou didn't force Yun Jian to say more. The month-long military training had officially begun. After all the students had set up their tents in the field training camp, they would begin their normal military training. Chu Ning and the others returned to Longmen City under Gu Yunjian's lead. Other than standing in a military posture, the military training also included some basic military steps. It was no different from the military training in an ordinary school, except that it took a little longer. Nothing out of the ordinary happened during this period, so more than 20 days had passed in the blink of an eye. It was time for the field survival exercise the next day. At night, sitting on the lawn and watching the moon in the sky, Yun Jian, Mu Ying and Lin Wan sat in front of the tent. The three of them were silent for a while before Mu Ying broke the silence. She seemed to hesitate for a long time before clenching her fists and turning to Yun Jian to say, Yun Jian, I want to go to the hunting school too. Before Yun Jian could say anything after she said that, a tall silhouette rushed up from the side. It was Lung Hanja. He had obviously heard what Mu Ying said just now. He rushed up to grab Mu Ying's wrist and told Mu Ying, No, why are you going to such a place? Besides, your family won't agree to it. Chapter 1352. All they saw was a tall and slender figure leaning against the tree. His slender legs and silhouette were as dazzling as the stars in the dark. It was enough to make all the girls present scream until they lost themselves. Fortunately, it was nighttime. Other than the students from different schools, the rest of the students had either returned to their tents or gathered together to play cards. No one looked in that direction. When Yun Jian turned her head to look, her eyes met with a pair of deep, shining eyes in the dark. When she came back to her senses, she saw that the person leaning against the tree was already walking over. That pair of slender legs seemed to have been carefully carved by God. Very quickly, it attracted the attention of the students who hadn't noticed him before. Damn! One of the boys who was playing poker screamed. He was so scared that he dropped the poker cards in his hand into the bonfire that was lit by the firewood. Ce suddenly appeared like a ghost in the dark. The crowd sitting around him was shocked. When they came back to their senses, they saw that Ce was already walking toward Yun Jian. Who's this guy? He suddenly appeared like a ghost. I was scared to death. Someone said loudly. But this man is so handsome. Another girl held her face in her hands and shouted out loud in a rather infatuated manner. Ce ignored everything around him. After he walked over, he grabbed Yun Jian's hand and pulled Yun Jian up from the ground. Then he walked toward the small forest. Hey, who are you? How can you take away a student from our school without permission? An instructor who was patrolling saw Ce suddenly pull Yun Jian toward the small forest. He quickly chased after him to stop him. The moment he saw Ce, Lin Shuya, who was sitting not far away with Wen Peeling and Han Ming, was stunned. All the students thought that Yun Jian was in a relationship at a young age. After all, this guy who suddenly appeared walked over and pulled Yun Jian away in front of the instructor. If this wasn't love, then what was? And they actually dared to do it so openly. After hearing the instructor's question, Ce narrowed his eyes. At the same time, he didn't let go. Instead, he pulled Yun Jian into his arms. Instructor, they're openly dating each other. Let's not talk about the fact that we're students. I don't think even in the military you can hug so openly, right? I suggest that Yun Jian be punished. Seeing such a tall and handsome man hugging Yun Jian, Lin Shuya was very unconvinced. The jealousy in her heart also sprouted. Lin Shuya just happened to catch this scene. She started egging Yun Jian on, as if she was afraid that Yun Jian wouldn't be punished. Dating? Ce broke into a smile, his handsome face mesmerizing. Lin Shuya couldn't help but stare. This time, I agree with Shuya's point of view. It's best not to fall in love early in school, especially in our military school. Moreover, it's still the military training period now. When Peeling stood up rather gently and said a sentence of justice. Ahem, even if your team monarch slashing God, I can't cover for you, so? The instructor was about to punish Yun Jian. Just then Ce suddenly half-hugged Yun Jian. He took out a thin book from his trouser pocket and threw it to the instructor. He hugged Yun Jian's slender waist again and suddenly curled his lips to declare his sovereignty. Nominally she's already my wife. This is Country R's marriage certificate. We're legal. The instructor grabbed the book and glanced at it. Then his face stiffened. This is really Country R's marriage certificate? I have a relative who was married to a Country R citizen. It's this kind of book. After hearing the instructor's words, Lin Shuya's face darkened to the extreme. Everyone around them was stunned. Chapter 1353. Telling everyone in front of everyone that Yun Jian was already his woman. Was legal. Ce felt great about it. If Adam or Shuang were here they would probably mock him again, so you're this kind of young master. However, Adam and Shuang did not know that they were here. Adam was in Yulong mainland while Shuang was left behind by Ce and an Han group to take over his job. Have you seen enough? Ce asked when he saw the instructor still looking at his and Xiao Jian's marriage certificate. The instructor was stunned by Ce's words before he tossed the book back to Ce. Country R's marriage certificate was not called a marriage certificate but a marriage certificate. There were many types of marriage certificates in Country R but they were mostly the same. It was unlike Country Z's marriage certificate which was a small red book. In Country R, the woman could get married as long as she was 16 years old. Ce caught the book the instructor tossed back without even looking at it and put it back in his pocket. Yun Jian gave Ce a little fixed on Yun Jian just as she was about to turn and leave. Before he grabbed her wrist and pressed her against the tree to kiss her. left a line that made one's imagination run wild. After the kiss, since he realized that Yun Jian was not wearing the ring he brought back from Yulong mainland. Yun Jian pinched the accessories were not allowed during military training, so Yun Jian had in the eyes of the others. It's in my bag. Yun Jian's action was a public display of affection. Right, it was legal. Ce grunted before his lips curled into a smirk. Oh my God, so Yun Jian already has such a handsome boyfriend. If you don't wear it next time, I'll eat it's her husband. It's so sweet, I'm so envious. Yun Jian's husband caught the marriage certificate without even looking at it just now. He must be quite skilled. They're a perfect match. They're so compatible. This was already enviable enough, but when Lin Wan exclaimed about it, the people around them could not help it even if they did not want to listen. Especially those girls, one or two of them were so envious that they were about to go crazy. Lin Shuya was so envious that her fingertips had already dug into her palms. Shuya, come here for a moment. At this moment, one of Lin Shuya's followers suddenly leaned his head close to Lin Shuya's ear and said something. Lin Shuya's little follower was also a student in Yun Jian's class. His name was Xiang Qishi. Xiang Qishi was so envious that she wanted to die, but she didn't dare to do it herself, so she went to Lin Shuya and whispered a lot. In the end, Lin Shuya narrowed her eyes and smiled. Then she nodded and said softly that only Xiang Qishi and herself could hear, "Humph, what do you mean he's Yun Jian's man? Which man doesn't like the new and hate the old?" In the small forest, Ce hugged Yun Jian for a long time before releasing her. Then he said, I'm going back to an Hun organization soon. This time I won't be able to leave for a long time. If you miss me, come and find me. It wasn't a plea but a determined tone. Who would miss you? Chapter 1354. Ce stole a few more mouthfuls of tofu when Yun Jian was not paying attention. In the end, even when Yun Jian reached out to slap his hand to stop him, it was useless. If they were not in the forest but on a huge bed, Ce would probably not have been able to hold himself back. They had already gotten the marriage certificate, but the title was not confirmed yet. Just thinking about it made him feel indignant. Yun Jian and the rest have been gone for so long. I heard from the instructor that the forest here is not particularly safe. When we first came here there was even a wild boar attack. Do you think they're in danger? Lin Wan sat on the grass and chatted with Mu Ying for a long time. In fact, it was Lin Wan talking to herself. Mu Ying was in charge of listening and occasionally replied to Lin Wan. Lin Wan suddenly thought of the danger as she spoke. She quickly sat up straight and turned to Mu Ying. Thinking about it, there were quite a lot of wild beasts in the forest. No one could guarantee that there would not be a ferocious beast running out of the forest. Aya, will something happen to them? Mu Ying, shall we get the instructor to look for them? Lin Wan stood up from the ground in fright. Mu Ying tugged Lin Wan's clothes and pulled Lin Wan back to the ground. She said calmly, "Don't worry. If this lousy forest can stump her, the sky will fall." Lin Wan heard Mu Ying's words and heaved a sigh of relief. Is that so? Then I'm not worried. Unless the sky falls, nothing will stump her. Even if Yun Jian is Team Monarch/God, she can't be omnipotent, right? She's not a god. There are some things that are better not said so easily. Lin Shuya was sitting not far away. After hearing Mu Ying's words, she sneered. Lin Shuya still did not like Yun Jian after knowing that she was Team Monarch/God. However, he didn't dare to say it as openly as before. Lin Shuya's words didn't get any response from Mu Ying and Lin Wan. After sitting there for a while, Lin Wan suddenly saw two figures coming out of the woods. The moment she saw Yun Jian, Lin Wan heaved a sigh of relief. Then she tugged at the corner of Mu Ying's clothes. Look, Yun Jian is back safely. Okay. Mu Ying nodded. Just as he looked up, he saw two silhouettes walking toward Yun Jian. Yun Jian had just walked out of the forest with Ce when she sensed a girl pouncing on her. Needless to say, this girl was Lin Shuya's little follower, Xiang Qishi. Xiang Qishi walked over and reached out to grab Yun Jian's wrist, acting like she was very close to Yun Jian. She wanted to pull Yun Jian aside while saying, "Yun Jian, you must be God. I admire you so much. My friends also admire you very much. Can you come over and say hello to my friends?" Xiang Qishi wanted to pull Yun Jian away, but before she could reach out, Yun Jian dodged Xiang Qishi's hand and rejected coldly. No. Xiang Qishi was stunned. She obviously didn't expect Yun Jian to reject her so decisively. On the other hand, Lin Shuya wanted to hit on Ce. Although she said something serious, she wanted to lean on Ce. "Handsome, are you and Yun Jian really married? How did you guys get married? Can you?" As Lin Shuya spoke, she even thought about it. Her breasts were well developed. She planned to rub her breasts against Ce's hand. As long as it was a man, he wouldn't be able to stand it. But imagination was beautiful. Lin Shuya didn't even get close to Ce. She couldn't even touch the corner of Ce's clothes. Ce didn't even look at her. He kicked Lin Shuya coolly and frowned slightly. He spat out a word of disgust between his thin lips. Get lost. This was nothing. What scared Lin Shuya even more was that Ce actually took out a silver pistol from his waist and pointed it at her. Stay away from me. Otherwise this will be your end. After Ce finished speaking, everyone was shocked that he actually took out a pistol. At the same time, he suddenly fired a shot at a spot on the lawn not far from Lin Shuya's side. A frog that was passing by was killed by this shot, and blood splattered everywhere. The blood splattered directly onto Lin Shuya's face and body, causing Lin Shuya to tremble on the spot and scream incessantly due to this unforeseen event. Chapter 1355. Lin Shuya was suddenly kicked by Ce and splashed by the frog's blood. She was so scared that she started twitching. If Lin Shuya was envious of Yun Jian and Ce being together, then she and all the girls present were terrified of Ce. He even used a gun? Lin Shuya only wanted to play a little trick, but not only did he send her flying with a kick, he even wanted to kill her. This man was very handsome, but how could he be so cold? At this moment, the instructor who was patrolling saw it and rushed over to stop Ce, afraid that Ce would really kill someone in front of everyone. "Comrade, don't you know that it's illegal to carry a gun? Hurry up and hand it over." Although the instructor didn't know who Ce was, he could only do things according to common sense. As for Lin Shuya and Xiang Qishi, they were so scared that they hugged each other. Not to mention the two of them, the surrounding boys were all trembling in fear. Ce's eyes moved. At this moment, he hugged Yun Jian and didn't even look at the instructor. He reached into his trouser pocket and took out a leather certificate other than the marriage certificate and threw it to the instructor. Although it was night time, the surrounding students could clearly see the three big words written on the leather cover of the certificate. Gun license. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. He actually managed to get a gun license from Z country? In the past, if CE came to country Z, he never cared about these things. He could have committed a crime and left country Z. With his status, even if the police pursued him, there would be no news. But he didn't. In country Z, CE didn't kill anyone for her. Now he even deliberately got a gun certificate. After all, Yun Jian still had to live in country Z. Qin Yuru, Yuni, and the others were all in country Z. Something really happened, they couldn't live there anymore. One could imagine how much CE had changed for her. He was the leader of the Inhun organization, but he endured to this extent for her. If they weren't in country Z, Lin Shuya would definitely end up like that frog. The moment the instructor received the gun certificate, his eyes were wide open. The instructor's hands trembled. He looked up at CE and flipped through the gun certificate in his hand. This is really a gun license, you? The instructor's words made all the students around him feel shocked and terrified. Although the surrounding people had seen the three big words, gun license, just now, when they received the instructor's verification, the oral shock was still not small. In other words, it was legal for CE to carry a gun? Lin Shuya and Xiang Qishi dared not move, looking like they were really afraid that CE would shoot them. In front of everyone's eyes, in front of everyone, he hugged Yun Jian in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, in a low voice, his voice in front of everyone, I'm leaving. If anyone bullies you, just kill them. If anything happens, I'll take care of it for you. As soon as CE finished speaking, Yun Jian softly replied, An ordinary person would definitely not be able to produce a gun certificate. In this case, CE was definitely not an ordinary person. At this moment, even the instructor was a little stunned. Until CE took the gun certificate from the instructor and left, everyone present was still in a state of shock. Yun Jian, you're wearing a ring on your finger? It's so beautiful. At this moment, Lin Wan suddenly ran in front of Yun Jian and lifted Yun Jian's ring finger to take a look. Then she shouted with joy. This ring was on her finger, and CE had deliberately chosen it. Yun Jian retracted her gaze from CE's direction and smiled slightly. Okay, go back to your tents and sleep. It's fine. Especially the students who are participating in the 7-day outdoor survival activity tomorrow. Go and rest. The instructor urged at this moment. Then all the students returned to their tents. Chapter 1356. The next day the sun was still shining brightly. It was summer and the sun rose earlier in the south. At around 4:20 in the morning, the first rays of the morning sun had already appeared in the east. In less than 20 minutes, the sky would be completely bright. Yun Jian woke up at 4:30. The air was the freshest at this time. Taking a deep breath would give one a refreshing feeling that penetrated one's heart. Yun Jian pulled open the tent and came out. She gently stretched. At this time, the students in the surrounding tents were still sleeping. 6:30 was the time to wake up. At 7 o'clock, the students who planned to participate in this outdoor survival activity would be sent to the activity location by the school bus. Student Yun Jian, you're up so early? Instructor Zhou came from the side at this time. He glanced at Yun Jian, then smiled and said, It's not early. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. Then she put on her little white shoes, stood up and walked towards the woods. What are you going to do, student Yun Jian? Instructor Zhou was stunned when he saw this. Morning exercise. Yun Jian said as she stretched, then jogged towards the woods. Instructor Zhou, who was standing in the same spot, was stunned. Then he smiled and stood in the same spot. He shook his head and praised, "What a good seedling." When Yun Jian came back from her morning run, it was already 5:30. The students were still not awake, except for a few instructors who were already awake and sitting on the lawn. When he saw Yun Jian, Instructor Zhou waved at her. "Hey Yun Jian, you're back? The other students will wake up in an hour. Come over and let's talk." When Yun Jian saw this, she gently wiped the sweat on her forehead and walked towards the instructors. Then she sat down on the lawn and looked at the instructors sideways. The students who don't need to participate in today's outdoor survival activity ended their military training early. So last night, we asked the students to hand in small slips of paper asking if they wanted to participate in today's outdoor survival activity. There are a total of 15 classes in the entire grade, and there isn't even a single student in one class. How can we compete with the students from the Wulin Military Academy in the Yin province? One of the instructors gritted his teeth and said as he slapped a large piece of paper on the ground. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly and asked, "In this outdoor survival activity, our school is competing with the students from other military academies from other provinces?" Instructor Zhou then replied to Yun Jian, "Yes. It's a competition to see which school has more students passing this activity. I'll talk about this later." Yun Jian pursed her lips and did not ask any more. Muing woke up at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, all the students got up. The students who did not participate in the outdoor survival activity in the morning, and went home to rest after their military training. As for the students who continued to participate in the outdoor survival activity, only of the year of the Wulin, the year of the Wold of the Wolf ************, in other words, 30 of the students in the wilderness survival of the year. After sending the 30 students to the beach near Min City, Instructor Zhou mentioned that the students from Min City Military Academy would be competing with the students from Wulin Military Academy from Sesame City in the Yin province. The location of the competition was set to be an uninhabited island. The uninhabited island covered a large area, and there were some dangerous animals on it. Before entering the uninhabited island, Instructor Zhou would give each student a panic button. Once the button was pressed, the military personnel would know that the student had given up on the competition. Then they would immediately send a helicopter to take the student away. The competition could be stopped midway. After Yun Jian and the others got out of the car, they met up with the freshmen from Wulin Military Academy before they went to the uninhabited island. When they saw that Yun Jian and the others from Min City Military Academy were thin and weak, some of the students from Wulin Military Academy began to put on airs. Chapter 1357. Many of the playful boys from Min City Military School gave up and didn't participate in this outdoor survival event. Instead, a group of girls held up the sky. Lin Shuya, Xiang Chishi and Wen Peeling all came. Yun Jian and Muing didn't need to be mentioned. On the night of choosing whether or not to participate in this outdoor survival event, Lin Wan also wrote, "Participate," on a small piece of paper. So Lin Wan also came. In addition, a few girls from other classes were also there. Of course, there were still more boys. Lung Hanja and Han Ming also participated. As for the boys from other classes, there were people who signed up one after another. Girls didn't make up the majority. After all, there were only a few girls in the military school. But compared to Wulin Military School was full of strong boys. Every one of them looked very strong. As for the girls, only one or two came from Wulin Military School. Hearing the words of the boy from Wulin Military School, all the students from Min City Military School were furious. Just you wait, we'll win for sure. One of the boys from Yunjian School shouted back at the guy just now, indignant. For a moment, the atmosphere on both sides was a little tense. Alright, let's not hurt each other. After all, friendship comes first, competition comes second. Wen Peeling stood up and said in a very friendly manner. No matter how noisy the scene was, no matter how the crowd argued, Wen Peeling just as she was about to close her eyes
again,
she saw that
raised her
Instructor
eyebrows
Zhou had
slightly.
already started
Then,
distributing
under the
the
guidance of
emergency
the
SOS
from
from
each
Wulin
student,
Military School
there was
and
a button
Instructor
on the
Zhou.
emergency
Everyone
SOS.
boarded the cruise
Pressing
ship
the
to the
button would set the
uninhabited
location.
island.
As long
Yunjian
as a
sat on
student
the
didn't
large
want to
cruise
continue
ship and closed her
participating in
eyes
the
to rest.
competition,
After a
could press
while,
the button,
suddenly loud
indicating
quarreling
that they
sounds
admitted
came from the
defeat
side
and intended to
The
withdraw
noise
from
was
the
so loud that
competition
Yun
midway.
Jian opened her
According
eyes.
to the location on the
Immediately,
emergency
she heard
SOS,
unpleasant shouting.
the helicopter
It
would
was two
fly there
girls
to pick
arguing.
up the students.
You stepped on my
When
foot just
Instructor
now.
Zhou handed the
What's
emergency
wrong?
SOS to
I'm just
Yunjian,
curious.
Yunjian
Why don't
didn't
you
take
girls
it.
from Wulin Military
need it.
School even know
Every
how to
student has
apologize?
one.
Do you
Take it.
want me to teach
You can do whatever you
bastard?
want with it.
Instructor
This voice came
Zhou
from
said
Lin
with a
Shuya.
smile.
When
Yunjian
could
Yunjian
tell
heard
right
this,
away.
she took the
Let me tell you,
emergency
if it weren't
SOS
for
and threw it
military
directly
training,
into the
I
sea
would have
outside
asked
the
someone
cruise
to beat
ship
you to
without
death
even
right
looking
away.
at it.
Believe
This
it or
thrill
not,
meant that she had
the
no way
voice
out.
came from one of the
She
girls
didn't
from
even have the
Wulin
right to
Military
withdraw from the
Academy.
competition
Wei
midway.
stop arguing.
Seeing this, the
Let's
group
not
of boys
argue
with
with
the
the
students
Wulin
from
Military
Min City's
Academy
began
began
to
to
whistle
Academy.
and lean over.
Another girl from
Some of the
Wulin
boys
Military
even teased,
Academy quickly
"Yo,
pulled
this
the
girl
girl
is
who was
quite
arguing
fierce,
with
but
Lin
it's not
Shuya
very
away.
wise, haha."
The girl who quarreled with Lin Shuya was called Su Wei. Su Wei was forcefully dragged away by her friend, so she didn't continue quarreling with Lin Shuya. But before she left, Su Wei shouted at Lin Shuya, "Just you wait. If I don't kill you, my name isn't Su Wei." Su Wei's words made Wen Peeling's eyelids move. She hurried over and pulled Lin Shuya away. Chapter 1358. Even if they're fools, it's not up to you to talk about our classmates. Trash Wulin Military School. Lin Shuya didn't know what was wrong with her at this time. She actually helped Yun Jian scold the boy. Lin Shuya helped Yun Jian purely because Wulin Military School and Min City's military school were now enemies. It was one thing to quarrel with one's own people, but it was another thing to quarrel with outsiders. What are you talking about, woman? Be careful that I don't beat you up. The boy from Wulin Military School heard Lin Shuya's words and stood up directly and clenched his fist at Lin Shuya. After all, boys were stronger than ordinary girls. Seeing this, Lin Shuya shrank back and was a little scared. Pa. Just as the boys from Wulin Military School saw Lin Shuya's cowardly look and laughed out loud, Yun Jian's hand, which was originally attached to the armrest of the seat, suddenly exerted force. Hearing this, the group of people around looked over, only to see Yun Jian's hand on the armrest of the seat. She exerted a little force and actually broke the plastic armrest of the seat. Although the armrest of the seat was made of plastic because of its large size, breaking it was definitely not something that could be done with ordinary strength.
Lin Wan originally wanted to scold them
her
back
small
for
body
Yun
looked
Jian,
as if she
but
hadn't
she was
eaten
stopped
much
by
and had
Muing.
no strength at all.
When they arrived at
But
the
with a gentle
uninhabited
twist of
island,
her hand,
the
she
instructors
actually
reminded
broke the
them again
plastic
and
armrest
again.
directly.
In the end,
What
they
kind of
checked
strength
every
was
student's
this?
military
The
travel
group of
bag
boys
to make
from
sure that
Wuling
they had
military
enough
school
food
were
to
still
survive
laughing
for
and
7
mocking
days.
her just now.
Only then did
Now
they
that they
watch the
suddenly
group
saw
of
the
students
scene, they were
walk
so
into the
scared
dense
that they
forest
stopped
of the
breathing.
uninhabited island.
Damn
Every
it.
student had brought
This
enough
is not
food and
human.
necessities. A boy
After
from
all,
Wuling
this
military
group of
school
students
was
did
so
not
scared
have
that
any
he
practical
directly roared out
experience.
after seeing this
It would be
scene.
very dangerous
However,
to let
he
them
saw
go
Yun
in
Jian
without
throw
bringing
the
anything.
armrest of the seat to
Other
the
than
ground.
that, the
She
instructors
propped
also
one hand by
prepared
her
her
ear
military
and said
dagger for
impatiently,
each student to
"You
defend
guys are very
themselves."
noisy."
When they just
After
entered
hearing
the
Yun
forest
Jian's
of the
words and looking
uninhabited
at Yun
island,
Jian's actions
all the
just
students
now,
from
the
Wuling
group of
military
boys from
school and
Wuling
Min
military
City
school
military
actually
academy
shut their
walked
mouths
together.
instantly and
At
became
first,
terrified.
the sun was shining
Seeing
brightly
this
in the
scene, the
sky,
boys
so
in Yun
even when
Jian's
they
school
walked into
laughed
the
out
forest,
loud.
it did not
Damn,
feel
this
eerie.
is so satisfying.
As Lin Wan walked,
Yun Jian,
she
you're
seemed to be
amazing.
affected by the
We support
environment.
you.
She turned
Similar
her head to look at
voices
Yun
emerged
Jian,
one after
then turned
another.
her head to look at
But
Muing
Yun
and
Jian
asked,
just turned sideways and
how was
closed
it
her
when you
eyes
and
to
Yun
rest.
Jian were in the Amazon
When things
forest?
quieted down,
Can
the
you
group
tell me
of
about
boys
it?
from Wuling military
As she
school
spoke,
shouted
Lin
at
Wan
Yun
blinked
Jian,
curiously.
"It's not good for a girl to be so rude.
Be careful that no one will
1359.
want you when you grow
Damn,
up.
are you kidding me?
Two girls have been to the Amazon
Such
forest?
a beautiful woman.
Are you
I
kidding
can't
me?
wait to see her.
Do you have passports?
What was
Can you
even
go
worse was
abroad?
that someone
I
actually
don't believe
shouted
you.
at Yun Jian,
A Wuling
"Hey,
military
sister,
school
if we
boy
win this
who had been
competition,
leading
will
the
you be
clamor
my
and looked like a
girlfriend?"
ruffian,
These
shouted
words
first.
caused another uproar.
He then looked at
No
Yun
one
Jian
from
and
Min
Muing
City
with a
Military
scrutinizing
Academy
gaze.
spoke up for Yun
Everyone
Jian
present
either.
could feel the look of disbelief on his face. That's right. If this was said by a man, I could still believe it. But if it's said by two skinny girls, I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. Standing next to the ruffian boy, another boy who was close to the ruffian boy also laughed in collusion with him. The former was called Wu Bukue, and the latter was called Ma Xiaoyao. Both of them were famous freshmen in Wuling military school. Their strength was not bad, but their character was not good. Especially Wu Bukue. Due to his outstanding performance during the military training, he attracted the admiration of many girls. He even secretly took advantage of many girls. In Wu Bukue's own words, he wanted to *ck all the beautiful girls. When he saw Yun Jian just now, he already felt that she was not bad. But boys, especially boys who were in puberty and had the strongest desire to win. Once they heard that a boy was better than them, they would want to compete. Not to mention that a girl was better than them. If a girl was better than them, of course they would not admit it. Unless this girl could convince him wholeheartedly. Originally, Lin Wan only wanted to ask Muing, but she did not expect the boys from Wuling military school to speak up. Therefore she stomped her feet angrily. Muing completely ignored the boys. She pretended that she did not hear what the boys said. She directly said to Lin Wan, "That was a long time ago. Yun Jian and I stayed in the Amazon forest for half a year. When we first went in, we did not even have a dagger, let alone food. In the Amazon forest, which was full of beasts, I met a group of cheetahs as soon as I went in." Muing suddenly turned to ask Yun Jian, "Yun Jian, what was the first beast you encountered after entering the Amazon?" At this time Muing asked Yun Jian. She felt a sense of nostalgia when she recalled the dangerous past. It was a feeling of fear and nostalgia. Cobras, about 100 of them. Yun Jian pursed her red lips. She looked at the ground and replied to Muing. "Haha, cheetahs and cobras. What a joke." As soon as Muing and Yun Jian finished talking, the boys from Wuling Military Academy, led by Wu Bukue and Ma Xiaoyao, began to laugh again. Just as the group of people took 2 more steps forward, Yun Jian suddenly raised her head and shouted, "Stop right there." Hearing Yun Jian's shout, everyone around was so scared that they stopped in their tracks. Yun Jian's voice was loud and clear, startling Wu Bukue before he came to his senses. "Ck little beauty, are you crazy?" Wu Bukue shouted. "If we go any further, it will be a swamp. If we fall into a swamp, no one will survive," Yun Jian said coldly. "Ah, the swamp? Isn't the road ahead very normal? Are you kidding? Or are you trying to find a sense of presence? Is this all your Min City Military Academy is capable of?" This time the girl named Su Wei who quarreled with Lin Shuya just now mocked Yun Jian. Obviously, Su Wei was very unhappy that Yun Jian attracted all the boys from Wuling Military Academy. "If you want to go, go ahead." Yun Jian did not even look at Su Wei. She squatted down slightly, picked up a large stone from the ground, and smashed the large stone on the ground in front of her. The flat ground that looked like a normal road suddenly sank, and then the large stone was quickly swallowed into the ground. Su Wei, who just wanted to find more words to mock Yun Jian, was shocked. The other students also hurriedly stopped, and each of them was so scared that their faces instantly turned pale. This place that looked completely normal was actually a swamp. Yun Jian was really right. And if it was not for Yun Jian, then all of them present would. Chapter 1360. Su Wei and Wu Bukui's faces immediately darkened. Especially Su Wei. Su Wei was the one who questioned Yun Jian the loudest just now. Especially when Yun Jian said to her, "If you want to leave, do as you please." Su Wei had already lifted her foot and was about to walk forward. She was still thinking that the ground looked flat. How could it be a swamp? Who was Yun Jian trying to fool? However, before Su Wei could lift her foot to walk forward, Yun Jian threw a huge stone forward. Then the seemingly ordinary ground swallowed the huge stone. It was a swamp. This was a swamp. Yun Jian was absolutely right. If Yun Jian had been a step slower to throw the rock into the swamp, she would have stepped on it and she would be dead meat. The faces of the people around changed drastically. A student from Wuxia Military School even shouted, "How could this be? Didn't the instructor say that it wouldn't be dangerous? How could there be a swamp here? This is impossible." Everything is possible. This forest is not as simple as it looks. If you can't stand it, leave as soon as possible. Yun Jian glanced coldly at the student from Wuxia Military School who was yelling. This glance made the student tremble all over. Then he shouted, "I don't want to continue. This is playing with our lives." After shouting, he pressed the button. He chose to withdraw from the competition. It was too dangerous here. He could lose his life at any time. In less than 10 minutes, a military helicopter flew here and took the student away. Several boys from Wuxia Military School also automatically withdrew from the competition. No one from Yun Jian's school chose to withdraw. After the people who chose to leave left, Yun Jian turned to the crowd and said, "For those who don't like me or don't trust me, let's part ways here. I have no obligation to take you with me. Good luck." After that, Yun Jian waved to Mu Ying and Lin Wan. Su Wei didn't dare to say anything else, but Yun Jian was obviously talking about them. Although the students from Wuxia Military Academy all wanted to go with Yun Jian, none of them could bring themselves to do it. So Wu Bukui led them to the left. The students from Min City Military Academy stood rooted to the ground. "I want to be with Ying Ying." This was Lung Hanja's wish. "Let's go together. We can only win if we work together. Besides, it's quite dangerous here. I think Yun Jian knows a lot about survival in the wild, so I'll have to trouble her to lead the way. This is also for the honor of our school." As soon as Lung Hanja finished speaking, Wen Peeling immediately added, "You can follow me, but you are not allowed to question my judgment. Otherwise leave." This was Yun Jian's principle. She stood in front of everyone and spoke coldly with an expressionless face. "Do you really think you're—" Lin Shuya was a little unconvinced after hearing this. She muttered a few words, but Wen Peeling immediately covered her mouth. "That's enough. From now on, everyone will listen to Yun Jian. If anyone has any objections, they can leave by themselves if they have the ability." After all, Lung Hanja was the oldest in the group. As soon as he spoke, everyone was stunned. As expected, no one dared to say anything else. The group then walked in the opposite direction of the Wuxia Military Academy students. After walking for about half an hour, they suddenly heard a cry for help coming from behind them. Just by listening, one could tell that it was the group of students from the Wuxia military training who were running towards them as fast as they could. They were also shouting for help, which made Lung Hanja and the others frown. They're catching up. There are so many snakes. What do we do? I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place anymore. We'll die. Oh, F***seek a run? Run. Did the students from Wuxia Military Academy lead the danger here? Chapter 1361. Yun Jian's eyes flashed, but her expression didn't change. In comparison, Yun Jian's classmates all tensed up when they heard the Wuxia Military Academy students' screams from afar. What's going on? What's going on? Han Ming's expression changed. He quickly turned to look at Lung Hanja and spat out this sentence in fear. Judging from the sound, they're being chased by snakes. Everyone run. Lung Hanja's expression was also very bad, but compared to the people around him, his reaction was the calmest. Snakes? Snakes? I'm afraid of snakes the most. Lin Shuya was so scared that she almost fell to the ground. Her face instantly turned pale and she wanted to be the first to run. It's a snake swarm. We can't run. Yun Jian squatted on the ground gently. She placed her hand on the ground and felt the movement from afar. Yun Jian, are you trying to get us killed? You already said that it's a snake swarm and you still won't let us run. Lin Shuya couldn't suppress her fear anymore. She was the first to run as if she had gone crazy. However, she heard Lung Hanja say, "Listen to Yun Jian, If anyone dares to run now, then don't stay with us for the next 7 days. Lung Hanja's words made Lin Shuya even more afraid. She didn't dare to run anymore. Since it's a snake swarm, then let's go up the tree, Xiang Qishi, who was with Lin Shuya, suddenly said. Hearing the footsteps of the Wulin Military Academy students getting closer and closer, the people around them were so scared that they were trembling all over. Thus, after hearing Xiang Qishi's words, the people around them immediately found their target tree. Even Lin Shuya, who usually didn't climb trees for the sake of her image, ran up the tree like a wisp of smoke. At this time, Yun Jian had already raised her hand from the ground and stood up straight. Snakes can climb trees too, Yun Jian said. This made the students who had already climbed up the tree suddenly think of this point. Right, snakes can climb trees too? What should they do? Were they really going to die here? No. They didn't want to die. At this moment, Yun Jian calmly said, if you have any flammable items like paper or books, take them out. Snakes are afraid of fire and smoke. Where there's fire, there's smoke. As long as there's fire, it won't dare to come over. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the boys immediately realized this. With that, the students tossed their books and papers into a pile in their military travel bags as fast as they could. Yun Jian then took out a lighter and flicked it on before tossing it into the fire together with the lighter. At this moment, he happened to see the group of Wulin Military Academy students chasing after a group of dozens of snakes, rushing over. When they reached the bonfire, all the students from the Wulin Military Academy jumped over. Meanwhile, the snakes that were crawling towards them suddenly realized something. They turned around abruptly as if they had met their natural enemy and ran away in the blink of an eye. The people around her maintained their fighting and fearful expressions at all times. Only Yun Jian stood behind the fire with her arms crossed, watching the group of snakes disappear into the distance. When the group of snakes was really far away, the students on the tree all climbed down. Su Wei, Wu Bukue, and the others who had just led their classmates in another direction heaved a huge sigh of relief. On the other hand, Yun Jian's classmates were all amazed by Yun Jian's calmness after the incident. She was calm, she didn't seem to be panicking at all. Then, everyone suddenly remembered that Muing said that she and Yun Jian had lived in the Amazon forest before. Yun Jian also said that when she entered the Amazon forest, the first beast she encountered was a group of snakes. Wasn't the way she chased away the snakes just now common sense for survival in the wild? If that was the case, Yun Jian, did you really stay in the Amazon forest for 6 months? Lung Hanja frowned and looked at Yun Jian. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.